Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 14th live stream from the MisfitGamersStudios. I'm your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. Today's topic is going to be an interesting one because we're going to kind of recap a few things that I've talked about, but I do have Kage here in the studio with me once again, so we're also going to get his opinion on what it's like to game with different gaming groups and some of the things that we've learned on how to adapt ourselves to gaming with different people, because it's one thing to have different parties and with the same people, but it's different when you have different friends groups or when you just have different groups that are not associated with each other and you want to try out, or you're even trying out a new group for the first time. There's a lot of different things that can go right, that can go wrong, and I think we all kind of learn ourselves. I think we all learn quite a bit about ourselves as players when we do game with other gaming groups. But yeah, I've talked about this a little bit, wanted to get Kage's opinion, and as well we also have like my last stream, we also have some viewer made content that came in. I did my reaction on it last Monday. If you guys want to go see that, you can check out my YouTube channel. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be reading those live here with Kage, and he has not heard these yet. He has not read them yet, so he is going to have a blind reaction. Hopefully Cosmic will be into the chat because it is Cosmic's making. Those are the 3 items that I did last week. I wasn't here on Thursday because I was out backpacking, so sorry for that. But I do have my Twitch chat, or my Twitch schedule is up to date, so we are posted on there. But without further ado, let me get Kage in here. Let's go. Boom. Greetings. Welcome back.
Hello, friends. Hello. I am excited to be back. This is a topic I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah, we were. I don't think you've gotten a chance to see the last episode. You were demoted from co-host.
Yeah. Did you guys get? You guys had a good time. You guys had a good time, and I'm really excited to see what this content is because it's I like homebrew stuff. I like creations. I like to see where different people's minds go.
These are pretty special. I'm actually really happy with them. But first off on the topic of today. So you had actually brought something to my attention, and I kind of want you to just kind of go share what you're willing to about this. Because, again, I think it's a fantastic concept. I've talked a little bit about my experiences with different gaming groups, but I've never really, and I even did an episode on like being a DM with different types of players and how to be a player with different DMs and different types of players. But I didn't really go specifically into the things that I've learned in terms of how to adapt and how to work with the various people you're going to run into, and the things that I've learned in terms of when to just call it, So, so you brought something before stream, so I just wanted to kind of let you have that and start us off.
One of my players came to me the other day, and we were talking about he started playing in another DM's world, and he says he doesn't like it as much as he did when he was playing with me, and so I was trying to understand what the big difference is, what the struggles that there are when you go to just either a gaming style that you're used to or a gaming style that you're hoping to achieve, versus what you end up with sometimes when you're gaming with people either you haven't before or that you're not necessarily as comfortable with, or whatever the case may be. And there's a lot of factors that play into it, but it's hard to figure out how to go about navigating that in a lot of situations, because you're not trying to be mean, you just want to be honest.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the first thing this first struggle that I always had early on going to different gaming groups is being honest in terms of what I did and didn't like. And I think a lot of people have that. And I think it's because for a lot of people, a lot of people really get into D&D. Like, this is a very this can be a very divisive great game. Like, people could love it, they can hate it. I mean, I'm not saying that it is a love or hate. I know a lot of people who just kind of just dig it and who just want to, like, play it every now and again, just like to do one shots, don't like to get, majorly into the books. But that's the idea, is that because everyone has a different approach, there are a lot of people who have very strong emotions and opinions on things, and they attach themselves to this game in a very strong way. And I learned that, especially with, the first gaming groups that I started with. So I was always hesitant when going to different gaming groups, especially if there was something I really didn't like. But surprisingly enough, for me, it was actually harder when I found something I did like more, because it's one thing to go to a gaming group and realize I don't really like this, and you can kind of decide, do I want to rock the boat here? Do I want to, like, do that, or do I just want to step away? But sometimes it's harder when you have, like, a hardcore gaming group or the ones that you're dedicated with, and then you try something else out and you find something better, and then you come back. It's actually a harder feeling, in my opinion, to want to bring that to, like, the established group. Because, you have, like, your established DM or your established players, and to have a new idea come, like, for me, like, to be like, oh my God, what these guys are doing? It felt like I would be insulting people. And that's kind of how I started, was just like, I don't want to be insulting by bringing a new idea to the table. That, it's one thing to say, hey, I have an idea for the game. But to come into the table and be like, hey, this other guy was doing this amazing thing that you don't do. Like, I felt like that's how it came across to a lot of people. So I was really hesitant at first to even just share my experiences. I was just more like, I would game and then I would have my personal opinions. And it was like, it took me a long time to realize, like, you have to be more vocal. And the idea is, you don't have to say that someone's wrong, but you have to speak up, because it's not going to change if you don't. And if it doesn't change after you speak up, then it's a choice on you.
Yeah.
If you don't tell the DM that you don't like something that they do, they can't have the opportunity to change it. But once you've told them, if they refuse to change it, or if they're unwilling or unable, now it's on you. Now it's on you to stay in that group. There is no, to me, and I learned this the hard way myself, because I stopped having pity and sympathy for myself when I had bad gaming groups, because I learned that lesson where, what was I doing to improve anything? What was I doing without saying anything? And that's, at the end of the day, if you say something and the problem persists, after that, the problem is on you. Because even if it's the whole, because we've all heard that excuse, well, it's the only people I can game with. Not anymore. Like, if you have an internet connection, you do not need live. And if you are stuck on any reason why these are the only people you can game with, like, whether it's, well, I don't have materials and they do, plenty of people will find you materials. Go to a local game shop. Well, I don't have a game shop. Go online. Like, there is nothing sticking you to a gaming group. And if you're sticking yourself there and there's a problem, you only have one of two options: leave or address it. And then once you've addressed it, you still have only one of two options: leave or stay and deal with. Like, it's just one of those things where it sucks. It's hard.
It's crazy. I have I'm a little bit ashamed to admit this. I have a little bit of a D&D graveyard in my Discord server from the what do you call it, during the pandemic, when I was playing a lot of D&D to pass the time.
Yeah. I had to bail on a lot of those. There was a purge day once.
There were a lot of groups that I really enjoyed playing with, but there were certain
I think
ended up breaking them in the end.
I think I had to do a couple purges, because there was a couple ones that I would go back to. But I think my first purge, or like my big purge, was like 26.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so fucking. I'm just like I just had them all in this, like, because you just have them in like the tab, like there's that one category, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I don't need to care about them. And then one day I was just like, I don't really play on, like, I got to get rid of some of these. And I opened it. Oh my god, it was just. It just filled up the whole line, and I just started scrolling, and I'm like, I need to remove these. I even clicked, I tried to click through a couple that I recognized. I'm like, oh, what are people doing? There's like 30 new players, like 5 new DMs every time I clicked into a new Discord. There was a couple that had like not changed. It's the same 5 guys, like doing the same damn campaign, slowly trudging their way through. And I'm just like, I need to just leave. I need to bounce. Like these were fun. I learned so much. But no. So anyway, so back to your player. So he started playing with a new group, and so was he specific on like the issues that he was facing in terms of like. Well, he didn't say issues. He just said that he specifically understands there are things that he didn't like as much as gaming with you.
So, a lot of the times, and I do believe that. So a lot of just D&D in general is just socialization, and I believe that for me, a lot of what helps make a good DM is being able to manage the players at your table. Be able to see when someone needs something, when someone needs help, when someone's struggling with something, like whatever the case may be, and you can, either provide whatever hints are necessary or to just let them know, hey, this is not the direction you want to go for whatever reason.
Right.
So especially with the people that I was with, because I knew them so well, and these were students of mine that I had had for a while, I was able to manage that table quite well. And I think sometimes it's hard when the DM is just trying to let stuff happen or trying to let the story move forward, and one person just stands up and starts taking over and starts doing whatever it is they want to do. Like,
right.
do I stop them? Do I not let them? Do I whatever? And I think one of the biggest deals is he feels like every time he wanted to try and do something, in one direction, maybe towards combat, use his powers, do something cool. The other person just decided to come in and be charismatic in a way because he was a bard.
So the idea was that action economy from the DM was poorly managed. The idea that the player, there were certain players that, by personality of the person, not the character, overshadowed everybody else.
Yeah.
And I've had this. I mean, I wouldn't even be. I would honestly. I don't have a specific memory of it, but I can honestly would not be surprised if I had even fallen victim for doing that to somebody at some point. Like being in a specific gaming group, knowing that like they are not as familiar or as experienced with the game. So I mean, I'm sure I've done that where I've overshadowed other players or the DM by just not really knowing my place. But I think that there are plenty of people who, because they've either been in gaming groups where it has just been say what you want, do whatever you want, and don't think, or they are very, very motivated and influenced by either social media gaming and meme gaming, that again, that filter or that sense of, okay, it's not my, the sense of order, the sense of concept of this is how the game goes. I think those kind of people do just tend to be very like, I'm just going to do this now because that's how this game works. I don't even think a lot of the times it's intentionally bad. Like they're not trying to do it to piss people off. I just really think that they've never had a good DM sit them down or at least manage them to the point to where, and here's another point, not just that they haven't had a DM manage them properly and help them work with their action economy, but I would even go as far as to say that they've not had a proper experience that was, or at least a proper satisfying experience playing the game, not like by the book with turns and everything, but when I've played with people like that and I've then talked to them like outside of that and talked about their gaming experiences, unless they're meme gaming, most of their time they have pretty bad experiences. And I think it's because they do that because they end up getting bored and they've never had a satisfying like combat session where everyone's doing what they're supposed to. They've never had a satisfying dialogue with an NPC where the right questions were asked, the right answers were given, and everybody in the group was working towards the same concept. Like I've when you talk to the people who tend to be the more, flamboyant in, well, not flamboyant in gaming, that's the wrong term. The more
combative?
No, like what's the word I'm looking for? impulsive, like those that just that tend not to think about the actual effects on the game itself. They just they go, this will sound cool, or I just want to be fun. Like, yeah, or sometimes they honestly just they think, oh, this is like I saw this on a YouTube video, or I saw this on a podcast, and I want to do this, and it's like. Those things are great. Like, it's like, hey, what do you do on your turn? And you have that some players who they just out of nowhere start to like dialogue this entire thing on their turn. And it's like, I just wanted to know what your action was, bud. Like, you don't get to take over and like say that as the enemy crumbles, you take off his mask and then you tell him to his face and then you throw him on the ground. Like, you don't get to narrate that, bro. Like I've played with people like that. And again, it's like from my personal experience, I can't say this for everyone, but more times than not, it seems like they have not had a successful experience or an enjoyable one doing it the right way. And I say right way as in not by the book, but in terms of working with the rest of the party, working towards the goal and actually playing their character. I mean, I'm sure some people just don't want to play like that.
I think that people that end up going down that road generally are those who have always felt that they've never been able to do the thing that they want to do. So it's like, well, if you're not going to let me, I'll just take over and see what I can get away with, or
right,
whatever the case may be, Like,
and I think that it's challenging, but because I've had players like that, and as as an like going back to the topic of today, for adaptation purposes, as a player, my adaptation is not overshadowing the DM, of course. Like, DM's place is the DM's place. But helping the DM in terms of providing, another perspective, right? If you see that the DM is trying to put this person in their place, or at least, trying to guide them away, you don't want to, as a player, take over that role. But you can assist. You can be like, as players, you can stop them from overtaking you. Be like, well, hey, my turn. Like, remember my action? Like, I know you got something, but like, it's got to go in turn. Like, it is the DM's place to really be on top of them, but you can, in the rightful moments, you can kind of help them be like, hey, bro, like, he's talking, like, chill it. And it's, it's going to be annoying when you have players who want to take over everything, but as another player, other than being confrontational, my advice is really the adaptation is to help the DM what you can, when you can. Either mimic and parrot the DM in small ways, whatever the DM's trying to, get across. You can say things in a smaller tone or in a smaller manner that, again, reflect from your point of view, right? So if the DM's constantly like, hey, man, you can't just, you have to stop with the grandiose descriptors and, you keep talking over everybody. If that's the constant message the DM is giving, as a player, you can just be like, hey, man, you're talking over me. Like, you're just basically parroting the DM, but you're not taking over and saying, hey, you can't do that. You're just taking ownership of the moment saying, hey, you're talking over me. And as a DM, my advice to that is really, again, working with the player, setting your boundaries. Like, you have to set those boundaries as a DM. If you don't have them and if you're not willing to set them, then you have to just be willing to put up with it. That's the adaptation, right? But if you're setting those boundaries, the other option is just, having to talk with a person, because I've seen a lot of people like have, I've seen a lot of advice come out in terms of like, oh, talk to the party and talk to everybody and do all that. But it's like, sometimes just go talk to the person and be like, hey, man, this is how I run the game and this is how I prefer it to be ran. Are you cool with that? And it's like, if they're just like, oh, but this, if they're giving you, if they want to give you reasons why they're acting like that, that's fine. Listen to them and try to help incorporate that into the game. But sometimes it is just going to come down to just pulling them aside, or just on another day, just be like, it can't be like this. You're literally trying to take over the game and that's not cool. But people have a problem with that. And there really is no way for me to help with that, because that's just an interpersonal like conflict issue, right? Like, I hate conflict. I really try to avoid conflict as much as I can. But when it comes to D&D, it's like, I guess I don't look at it as conflict. I just look at it as boundary setting. Because it's a game, right? And you don't want to play a game if there's no rules. And if people aren't going to play the rules, it's like going out on the field and be like, hey, we're playing, like playing like tag football, right? Like, no tackling, and someone tackles you and you're like, it's tag football, right? And then they tackle you again. Like, if you know that's going to happen and you stay on the field, you can't bitch and moan when you walk away bruised. You knew what was happening, you addressed it, and it was still happening. Like, games need the boundaries, and if you're not willing to set those boundaries and stick to them, the only other option is to put up with it, unfortunately. But I don't know. It's also really different because it's I think what am I trying to say here? Brain went too fast than my mouth.
I do think that it's for me one of the biggest challenges that I have is ensuring that everyone feels heard. A lot of the times, my players just want to try something different to accomplish a goal. You know, one of them literally just wanted to get a pet, like this little, and what was happening was supposed to happen. Like, it was kind of a part of the story, you know, and they just wanted to take it as a cute, and so my personal thing in my games, I just my players lead the story, right?
Mm-hmm,
Whatever they are trying to interact with, that's what's happening, right? So if you're trying to adopt something, then it's trying to be adopted, right? Like, that's what it's there for. Like,
yeah,
you know, so like, but
they're never really like fighting against the game.
Exactly, you know, like they're on a waterfall. It's a water slide basically. But I totally understand when you are trying to interact with the game in a certain way and it almost feels like you're being blocked by somebody, right? You know, like, I'm trying to use my magic to interact with the world, right? And somebody else is coming up and saying, I'm interacting with the world instead of you. You know what I mean? And, like, that type of feeling really sucks, you know? And so, for me, that, again, comes down to how well do you, as a DM, know your players and, like, what's happening? Like, I, for instance, in a situation like that, would redirect the magic that this person was doing and probably make something happen with this guy, you know, and make him dance around and do whatever.
Well, and that's another good point too, because a lot of these experiences that, you know, I can recall having myself, and the other experiences that I can recall talking with, you know, other players and DMs, it's kind of like what you just said right there. It's not just between the players sometimes. Like, yes, you know, the players are initially the problem, right? One's always overshadowing, but it also does come down to the DM's management, because if the DM is always allowing the louder player to overpower the, you know, like to overdo it, right? If the person's constantly coming up with new ways, and like my personal experience happened this, you know, a couple years ago, and I had even tried to bring it up to my DM, and I, like I said, this is personal experience. I brought it up. I, you know, defined what the problem was. This was when I first started to learn to, like, you know, actually speak up and, you know, be honest with myself and with him. And, you know, so I was talking to the DM at the time, and I was like, you know, I'm feeling like this game is starting to, like, be swayed towards a certain player. It's starting to feel favoritism. It started to feel like the everything was really just leaning towards rolling with a specific player. So I was having a hard time with it, kind of, you know, brought it up a couple times, brought up some evidence of mine, and it always ended up coming down to, well, they play more often, because this was a very, kind of like, you know, with my realm, there was always just stuff to do. So everybody got to game whenever they wanted to. It wasn't like, you know, the whole party had to be there. So kind of like what, you know, your example, it felt after a time where it was just anytime someone tried to do something, or whenever I tried to do something new or creative, it was like, oh, well, that's not necessary because this player already has it taken care of. Or it's like, oh, well, I have a really creative idea where we can find that information. Oh, that'd be really cool, except I already found out by this conversation I had on a day that you weren't here. You know, and it's like, it just kept being that way, where it was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm no longer playing the game. I'm just waiting to be told what they already found out, right? And and I feel like what that comes down to is an attentive DM. Are you seeing that your players aren't getting what they're attempting, or do you not care? And again, players, if that's what it's coming down to, like I said, if you bring up the problem and it keeps coming and it keeps happening, that's on you to stay with that DM. And DMs, if you're dealing with a player and they are unwilling to listen, it's the same thing. You got to cut them loose. You got to stop inviting them over. Like whoever's hosting, if the player's hosting, guess what? Find a new host. If the DM's hosting, guess what? You don't have to invite them. Like, it's hard. It sucks, especially when you're in friends groups. Like, that's probably the harder thing. Oh, and that's what I was going to bring up earlier when I had the little brain frizzle. A lot of these opinions are also really hard to have because it's also really, really dependent on the person's gaming situation, right? Like, I was great. I think a lot of people have it well off when you have a core group of friends that you can meet in person and play a game a lot, right? But not everybody has that. Some people have Discord. Some people have, Roll20. They have other online versions. And then other people have like local game shops where you just show up in there, and literally it's kind of like online where you just show up. And that's the other problem, right? Like from most of my perspective, I speak about people that you either know or ish, like not complete strangers, like if I were to come gaming with your group, I don't know that all of them, but we know of each other. And I think that's where a lot of my perception comes from in terms of these examples of how to deal with these things is it's kind of that expectation that you kind of know these players and know the DM outside of this game. But there is a fraction of people out there who they don't know these people. Like this is all they know them from.
Yeah.
And I think we really haven't touched on that because that's a totally different thing. If your way of gaming is that you have to show up to the local game shop and just sit down and start gaming with people, most of the advice that we're giving probably wouldn't work. You could probably do the whole pull the player aside or pull the DM aside and have a chat with them. But, it's like if you're going to the gaming shop and you're like, hey, the gaming shop hosts D&D twice a week. I can only show up once a week. And there's 3 tables, first come, first serve. So, if that's your problem and your problem is you don't like 2 of the DMs and you've talked to them, yeah, it's not as simple as just not playing, but the adaptation is, what it comes down to is, again, I think the best advice I can give in those situations when you don't know these people and when it's in a situation that's kind of out of your control, the best thing is I hate to have I would hate to say, just make the best of it because that's bullshit. But if you've tried to breach the problem, if you've tried to discuss it and it's not really working, the best question I think, or the next step would be asking yourself, what is it about the game that's bringing you here, right? Like, let's say you are in that situation where you only have the option of 2 DMs and more than half the time, the crappy DM is the one that you can get with, and they don't want to change, but they're always there first because they work at the, you know what I mean? There's all these reasons, but you just can't get out of it. But they're your only gaming group. My advice at that point is you have to basically break it down and go, then what's bringing you here? Because if you keep saying that, well, it's like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, but this is my only option. It's like, then why are you choosing this option? Like, you don't choose an option just because it's your only one, right? Like, I don't like Diet Coke. So if Diet Coke is my only option, I'm just not going to drink. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to force myself to go buy Diet Coke if I don't like Diet Coke, but it's the only thing on the shelf. And so my biggest thing is like, why are you playing the game? Like, what is drawing you here, and what made you put up with this, right, in the first place? Like, you've gotten to the point to where you're asking yourself, I don't like these things. Well, why do you want to come back if you don't like them? Are you delusional and think it's going to change? Or is it that, well, it's like you really, really like the players? Well, guess what? My adaptation to that is not just put up with the DM, but focus on the players then. Put more of your gameplay into interacting with the players, not the DM, right? So if you like a certain, if you like certain aspects, lean into those. And again, you can't really ignore the things you don't like, but you can start to essentially pull out of the game the very specific things that you like. You know what I mean? Like, you can interact with those things specifically, pull them out more, and lean into them and try to limit yourself to the things that you're not liking. whether, if it's the overbearing DM, try to work with the players, like metagame a little bit. Work with them on getting ideas that if the DM's going to listen to them more. Like, you could be the mastermind of the team, but not the one that's actually doing everything. So, you would have to work around it, but I think... I don't know. You got anything for that? Because that's not really a situation that we find ourselves. You do that more than I do. You go in game at like a place like that more than I do.
It's honestly, if we're talking about this scenario where you're in a gaming hall and there's only like 2 or 3 DMs, and for whatever reason you just keep getting stuck having to be in the group with the DM that you are not a fan of, and every time you play with them it's just a terrible experience. I can kind of understand the perspective of somebody who wants to play D&D so badly because it's just an outlet for them, a somewhat creative outlet, even if they're being somewhat, mistreated. It's an outlet. And so I've seen people put themselves through things like that for something like this. Unfortunate as it is, I don't think that's what you should subject yourself to. If it's really affecting you like that, I would honestly advise you to try and talk to the players perhaps and see if you can ask them to help you find another DM or something. Like, be like, hey, would you guys be willing to play another game with me? Like, you guys can keep playing with him if you want, but would you guys be, because I like playing with you guys, and whatever you gotta do, like, I honestly think that I was in a game where the DM basically didn't like... It felt like the DM basically just didn't like me. Because... I hate this terminology. But people basically consider me like a rules lawyer when I'm a player, right? Because I'm always trying to...
I prefer to refer to you as a rules not a rules lawyer, but you are more like the encyclopedia, because with playing with you, you are always quick to offer up the rules as written, but I've never seen you sit there and argue rules as written in terms of like the traditional like rules lawyer. I've always seen you just make sure that you understand which rules are being used. Like, you're more about define which... I don't care what rule are being used. I just need to know which ones they are.
I mean, that's fair.
And that's personal, because I look at a rules lawyer as someone who literally tells the DM or another player what they can and can't do. Whereas that's the DM's point of view. Now, granted, if the DM is saying, this is the thing that I'm using, and they are using it incorrectly, I don't mind people being like, hey, do you mind double checking that? Like, I don't mind people bringing up, especially if you're directly quoting or directly saying that you're going to use it, right? But a rules lawyer, in my opinion, is someone who's going to argue that. Like, well, you can't. Like, that's not the rules. And it's like, that's not how this game works. Like, the DM really gets a lot more... Like, I've always looked at it as, like, But again, with you, I've never felt like you bring it up in that sense. Like, we've had heated discussions about rules, but it's because, again, in the sense of you want the rule defined, not in the sense of what you know the rule to be, but you need to understand the rule or the mechanic and how it's being applied, because otherwise it's just like, again, the DM just saying, well, just because.
Yes, see, for me, when there is inconsistency in my mind, it makes me go crazy, right? And especially in a world where I have such confidence in its consistency, right? And I think that's, again, I get too ahead of myself most of the time, but the reality is, it's like, okay, I know, especially for you, there is a reason for everything, right? And so in my mind, I'm trying to wrap my head, like, what is that reason? Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, what is it? Like, what's the thing that I can rely on in this situation? What's the consistency that we are setting in place here so that I now understand how to move forward?
And I think that's great. And that's why it's like I can see why people would call you a rules lawyer, because in my opinion, you're the kind of person who it's not like if they say, well, I cast fireball and all of you get hit and you all know for a fact you're not close enough. And a rules lawyer would be like, well, no, we all don't get hit. Like, who got targeted because of fireball, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's a rules lawyer, right? Like, would argue all of the semantics. Whereas for you, I feel like you're not the rules lawyer who's going to be like, well, exactly what square did it hit? Because you're the one who goes, if a DM were to be like, okay, a spell comes hurling across the battlefield and it explodes and you all take 20, and you're going to be like, whoa, wait, what spell just happened? Well, it was just a spell and a giant fireball exploded. Like, so was that the spell fireball? Because that's not how that works. Like, that's you. You're not going to argue, well, you said fireball and this is what you have to follow. You're going to be like, this spell doesn't make sense, and there's no spell I know of that does what you just said. So can you please describe why all me and my 5 buddies got hit in a 100-meter radius, but the 9 enemies didn't? In the same that they're grouped. No, what? And it's like, that's you. I feel like that's you, where I can see why some people think that's a rules lawyer, because some DMs just want to make something up on the spot, but they don't want to be questioned. I don't think a lot of people are like me, who I would prefer to be questioned, because I like proving my consistency. I like showing that I mean, it's kind of a flex for me. For me, it is, in a sense, it's kind of an ego thing. Like, part of my game is that. Like, part of why I DM and the way I DM is for people to poke and prod and do what you do. Ask those follow-up questions. But at the same time, it's also, I like doing it because it is a flex. It is nice when someone thinks, like, especially when they get, like when they think that they've got the upper hand, or they think that they've, found something, and they're like, oh, this is all BS. And I'm like, all right, what are your questions? And we just sit there and it's like, you can ask as many questions as you want, but you're going to find logic in why I'm doing this. Like, it's not just because. But I don't know. I like I said, I wouldn't call you a rules lawyer, because you don't tell people what they should be doing because of the rules. I feel like you were someone who's like, what rule are you using? That's all I'm asking. You want the rule to be defined, not so you can argue what it should be, just so you know what the fuck is happening.
And to be fair, like, anyone who's ever played in my world knows that I really don't give a fuck about the rules. Like, I literally, okay, so I have currency in my game, and it's so easy for my players to get this currency. Like, you literally get one just for showing up, right? And so, like, every time they keep collecting this currency, and they can hoard it to themselves like little treasure goblins, or they can, spend it frivolously however they want. And these little coins are just basically allow them to cheat. Basically allow
so kind of like my DM points, but like in a different way.
Yeah. And so it basically says, no, I want this one to succeed, right? Or I want to, like, re-roll. My favorite is when they use it to re-roll on something stupid, and they just keep
just buying it, just gambling.
They keep rolling low, and they keep spending it. I'm like, oh, and the stuff that they use it on. I love the psychology of it. I really do. That's why I love letting them cheat. But anyways, gosh, if they ever watch this.
By the way, have you told any of them about this? You told them about the original podcast.
I did.
I don't know if any of them actually got to listen to it, but
I think I told my niece, but I don't know.
Are you going to tell them about
details. You see, I like Easter eggs. I really like Easter eggs, so I think there is one that I will most definitely will tell. There is one.
You know what you could do? If we get on a really spicy topic, or just whatever, you could take just some clips of what we're like just a podcast or whatever of any time that we've been talking. Take a clip and then use that in a gaming session. Just be like, and then you overhear a conversation, and then just play, and then just let them hear the conversation, and then just never tell them where it came from. Just, that's the conversation you heard, and then just like maybe do that a couple of times, and then just like this. Where are you getting these recordings? Just let that be their Easter. They're just, you know.
Oh my god. Oh, I have so many ideas. All right, I'm fine.
All right. Let's see. Well, we hit the 45-minute mark. I think that's actually good for that topic. I'm kind of surprised that Cosmic isn't here, but he can always view this on YouTube. Are you ready to hear about these items?
Really, I'm excited for a little review.
All right. So we are going to go over the items that I discussed with Cosmic Purge last week. This is one of our viewers. He sent me 3 items he's currently working on. I think they're mostly completed. He has maybe a little bit that he'll do. And I think 1 or 2 of these is currently in rotation in his games.
Okay.
By the way, okay, so I got to tell you about this. So he had a phenomenal idea. Oh, God damn it. Cosmic, where are you? Oh my gosh. Phenomenal idea. This blew my mind. You have to go back to that video and watch it. So he has this campaign that he's running, and these people they're going into this, like, it's like a mine, like they have to go into this mine system, and people from this mine are mining out this like precious like gem thing that when crushed up it can do like magical shit, like it kind of infuses everything. Just it's the MacGuffin powder, right? But it's from this mine only. And so like his campaign is going through and they have to like go search out because weird shit happens in this mine and like basically just a bunch of stuff. And then there's like a temple nearby and shit, right? Dude, this so the temple giant ass fucking like
Aladdin like temple?
No, think like Star Wars level, like impossibly just stupidly big buildings, right? That are just like stupidly insane buildings that are impossibly stupid. So
awesome.
It's like a giant rectangle, right? Like pillar.
Mm-hmm.
Shaped like a very, very big, like celestial being size. Like, I mean, not into the heavens, like, but probably like, I mean, I'm assuming based on the way he described it, I'm envisioning like 20, 30 stories, like a skyscraper size.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the head of a hammer. And that's their temple. And off of it is like a decrepit handle still being gripped by the fossilized remains of the celestial god, who is buried, and whose body decayed and his bones became the cave. So the cave tunnels that they're exploring is like the body's system, like of the decayed god, and the stuff that they're mining and turning into all this stuff is like his organs. And each organ, so every part in the mine, the parts they go to, every organ produces a different purity of this gem, and that purity will indicate like how powerful it is. So if they go to the brain area, that's like really high, then the heart, then the lungs, then the stomach, then the split. Like, so there's different qualities of these gems that they found through this cave. But what they don't know is this cave and the entire thing is literally the buried body of this celestial that they made a temple out of its weapon or its old hammer. Fucking dope, right? Fucking blew my mind. I was just like, I have never heard of like
that's
this.
Dope ass shit.
Like I've heard of like going like I did my DM did like, you know, celestial corpses and like the astral plane or other planes, but like the idea that this like was buried here, like fallen in battle, buried, body decayed, but then its bones, you know, slowly decayed, became crystal, and those are the and then that's the cave. They're just walking through, you know, it's the hollowed out areas where the bones are the last thing to stay, and then they carved into its, you know, hammer to make a temple, like a giant mountain. They just carved into it. Fucking, it's cool. It's fucking dope. It's really cool. It's really cool. God, I wish he was here to talk about it more, because like I don't remember all of the details because he was just typing a bunch of stuff in chat, so I was just reading it out. So go watch the video.
I'm watching the video.
Yeah, but it's just that's where we started with this conversation is that, and then we got into these, and I'm just like, man, you're fucking good. Like that's good. That's some good shit.
That's cool shit.
Some good shit.
I'm
Okay.
even more excited for these homebrews. This is the world that these homebrews are coming from. All right.
Yes, they are. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead.
Does he have a name for his world?
I don't think so. I'm not like so far not like us. I don't think he has an official title. But if he gets into chat, we'll find out.
Cosmic in the chat. Cosmic in the chat.
I wish I could ping him. Like if he was like online, that would be so cool if we could actually like ping him in chat and he would see it if he was on Twitch.
That'd be funny. That'd be actually really dope.
That'd be hilarious. All right, so we're gonna go in the same order that I read them in because this is the order that he chose them in. So first one is called Sid.
Sid.
Or the Satchel of Individual Desires.
The Satchel of Individual Desires.
Or it has a third name.
Okay.
So most players will know it as a Satchel of Individual Desires.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go this out of order. I'm actually gonna read this out of order a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
So it's Satchel of Individual Desires.
Yes.
Is what will be presented to the party. That's the name that they'll know by.
Mm-hmm.
When acquired, when the party acquires this item, the item will identify the party members. That's important. It will identify. So it's important to know that it selects the party. It says 4 people, 5 people, there's the party.
Okay.
So when acquired by the party, it will introduce itself and share its wisdom. It is a sentient item.
Okay.
It is similar to a bag of holding, yet smaller. So, when acquired, it will introduce itself as the Satchel of Individual Desire. It will remain with the party loyally. Cannot be stolen, cannot be given away until fully used. At least as far as I understand it with our conversation. Those specific details are not in here, but from my conversation with Cosmic through that stream, I'm extrapolating this based off of other information that we have.
Okay.
Because we have... I'll leave that for later, but you'll understand. But it will stay with it loyally, so until it's used.
Used, you say.
Yes. So, first ability is that whoever holds this item, so whoever keeps this item on the person, it will essentially act as a quiver of holding for any basic ammunition.
Okay.
So whichever party member's holding it, you ain't got to worry about your ammo anymore.
Cool.
And at any time of the play of a party member's choosing, each party member at any time of their own choosing, each one gets one opportunity to reach into the bag and pull out a item, kind of like how you would pull out of a normal bag, but it can't be any bigger than a brick. Can't be bigger than basically the satchel, and it can't weigh more than 2.5 pounds. It can't be magical. It can't have. And basically, it has a couple of things. Basically, it's any one item of the character's choosing. So, when it identifies the party, it will stay with them loyally until used up, and essentially the use is at any point. Each party member gets one pull from the bag of any item they want. It cannot be organs, body parts, or limbs. It cannot be money or gems. It cannot be a complex device. So like not a gun, loaded or unloaded, doesn't matter. No living creatures. No magical items. No rings, weapons, artifacts, potions. With one exception. You can choose to pull out one random or one magical scroll that will cast a random magical effect. That is the only magical item you can pull from it. Is you can actively pull one, essentially a random spell. You'll have no idea what it is until you cast it, but you can pull a scroll that will give you a random spell. No plot-based items. So, for instance, if to continue the plot you need a key, you can't pull the key out of the bag. If you need a very specific thing to kill someone, you can't pull that specific thing out. There is an asterisk there, unless certain requirements are met. So we had a side conversation, kind of like a Deus Ex Machina, lightly, like if there, like, say there is a key, and it's catastrophically lost, the bag can retrieve it. So very few, you can't just easy out with the bag, but it can unsoft lock you from the campaign. And or hard lock you, whichever one you want to consider. But it can basically stop, it can undo a really catastrophic mistake, but it will never let you progress easily. Right. Requested item cannot be larger than the bag itself, so basically the size of a brick, he said. And it can be no more than 2.5 pounds in weight. So you can pull out a dagger or a short sword. I mean, well, short sword is probably too big, but like a dagger or something. Like, you can pull out weapons, but nothing magical. So every party member can do this once and only once. Basically, when you want to use it, you stick your hand inside the bag. A white ring will appear around the edge. It will read your thoughts and your desires, and it will read your thoughts and desires, and you will the white circle will either turn red or it will turn green. Red means you've been denied. Green means that you can pull out your item.
Really?
And that's it. It only grants one use per party member. So you're not even guaranteed to get your use. All of its uses don't have to be used right away. You can save them as long as you want. Or when it's really, really needed. And it will travel with you like a familiar would. Until it's used up. And then it will go away.
So
we're not done, but that's just again, we're reading out of order here. But this is the
out
item.
of order. Is
This
this
isn't
one
the-
item?
this
This
is-
is multiple items.
This is the same item. We're just reading out of order in terms of what I read.
Oh my goodness.
I'm giving it. You'll see why I'm giving it to you in this way. So, what do you think so far?
It's very intriguing.
You want to hear more, or do you need to hear? Do you need to hear more? Or do you want to keep reacting first?
I'm okay. I just want to make sure I'm on the right page. Okay.
I'm doing this for a reason, so make sure you're.
So we have this bag that's like a bag of holding. Whoever's currently wearing it, while you haven't used up all the uses, it acts as a quiver folding for whatever the heck you want. Stones.
Yep.
Darts,
Whatever ammo you're using, it
throwing knives.
It has an unlimited
awesome.
amount.
Awesome. All right. The uses that it has is you can reach in the bag and you can pull something out.
Any item you want with that small list of caveats.
Yes, with caveats, right? But the one exception to the caveat of magical items is a scroll that'll cast a random spell.
Specifically, it's a magical scroll that will cast a random magical spell from the player's handbook.
Okay. All right.
Any spell from the player's handbook. This is not level capped. This is any spell listed in the player's handbook.
Okay. So, I had another question.
And it's also a percentile based on whether or not you'll get your item upon your use.
Okay. So
I had to discuss that along the side with him, but he also, like us, prefers percentiles. So we discussed, yes, this would be a percentile roll. He does not have it listed because he's still working on this one. I think he's saying probably like 10 to 30% chance of failure.
So
it's a small chance of failure. Like you're
smaller chance.
It's like it's either 70 or 90% chance you're going to succeed. It's like you would roll percentiles in a 10 to 30. Like he hasn't decided exactly, but it's going to be on the lower end of failure. But you have a chance to fail.
Okay.
So you ready? You ready for more? Or more questions?
Gosh, that chance to fail sucks, man. Because I'm like, just everybody right out the gate, boom, 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 boom. Spell scrolls. Let's go. Okay, also, is in the more, are you going to explain what happens when all the uses are used up?
Yep.
Okay. And yes, let's continue.
All right. So, it's a very rare item.
Very rare.
It speaks common,
Speaks common.
but understands all languages.
Excellent. Okay.
That's an RP nightmare, and I fucking love it. Because guess what? If you have it with the wrong party and no one took common, like if you can have one of those like exotic parties, that would be hilarious that it can't talk to anybody, but it knows what everyone's saying. But it also means that if you're on good terms with it, it's also a perfect translator. I didn't bring that up with Cosmic, but I thought about that after I read it again after the stream, and I was thinking about that. This thing, if you're on good terms and it actually likes you, it could be a perfect translator.
Just be my quiver, buddy.
So, but we're going to get into more reasons why that's probably not going to be the case. So, its stats. It has a 10 strength, 10 dex, 10 con, 10 whiz, 10 intelligence, 10 charisma. Initiative.
So it's a creature?
Technically. Kind of. It's not really a creature. It is a sentient item. It's a sentient magical item.
Okay.
It does have initiative. It is always last in battle. It cannot fight. It cannot take action. We'll get to that. It does. Well, yeah. Excuse me. It cannot fight. Cannot defend itself. It can only take one action, and it is always at the end of the initiative roll. We'll get to that in a minute. It cannot, and it can also not be targeted in battle. So it cannot be. So basically, it is essentially non-existent in battle.
What about AoEs?
It cannot be targeted in battle.
But AoE is not targeted.
Exactly. We didn't really actually go over that. That's a really good question. But essentially, this thing is immune to everything.
Okay.
Movement speed is 0. It rides on the shoulder or head of a willing party member.
Head.
Shoulder or head.
All
So it just kind of, yeah, it's an interesting. It gets better.
I got you.
Armor class infinite, cannot be targeted in battle even with magic missile. So it basically it does not get hit at all.
Okay.
Hit points infinite, immune to all forms of physical, magical, and elemental damage.
Okay.
So it's basically incorporeal. So what is this thing? Oh, actually, we have a few more things. Warning: this is a pocket dimension type item.
Okay.
As such, it is strongly advised you do not put this item inside of another of its kind, such as a bag of holding, a chest of holding, a portable hole, or similar items. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. It uses conjure item. Okay, so let's get down to the reality of this item.
Okay.
This item has one action in battle.
Mm-hmm.
This action is also where it gets its nickname. Because while the players will know this as the Satchel of Individual Desires, and it will be your loyal companion until all of its uses are up. And it will tell you all of this. It may not tell you that you have a chance of not getting your item. It may not tell you that. It also may not tell you that at the end of every combat, or at the end of every initiative roll, so essentially every round, it will take its action. Its action? This creature targets, it targets the creature who had the lowest attack roll in the last round, and uses vicious mockery. Every fucking round. Think about that for a second. Every round at the end of combat, or at the end of the combat, or at the end of the combat list, it will select the person that had the lowest roll in combat, the lowest to hit roll, and it will use vicious mockery against them. Hence where it gets its name. Oh wait, where did he write that? Maybe he only told me it. Actually, did he not write this? Oh, he has a nickname for it. I think it's either. I don't think it's called just the Bag of Mocking. I think it's actually something more clever than that. Damn, I thought he had it on here because he actually has a different name of it. But it was crafted by the god of deceit and trickery. And essentially what it does is exactly that. It is a cursed item put out by the god of trickery and deceit. It is a cursed item that when obtained, it will introduce itself and it is locked to the players. And until all of the uses are done, it will not leave the players. And all it does is sit there and talk shit out of game, like out of combat. And in combat, it doesn't matter if it's the party or the enemy. Whoever had the lowest to hit roll will have Vicious Mockery. And Vicious Mockery actually can fucking suck. Because it can make you have disadvantage.
Vicious Mockery can fuck you up.
Like, I don't actually, I haven't even...
Especially if he can cast that shit at will.
Oh, what the fuck was that? Oh, Brewable, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it.
I have a friend.
All right. I totally spelled... I was... Vicious... Come on. Oh my god. My brain is not working right now. There we go. Vicious Mockery spell. So, for Vicious Mockery, it is a cantrip, 60-foot radius, instantaneous. You unleash a string of insults laced with subtle enchantment at a creature you can see within range. If the target can hear you, though it need not understand you, it must succeed a wisdom saving throw or take 1d4 psychic damage and have disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes before the end of its next turn. The spell increases by 1d4 when you reach 5th level. I don't know if he actually cares about the party level, but think about that. Everyone in combat, friend and foe, someone will take 1d4 psychic damage at the end of every combat round. Someone on the battlefield.
Is it not a saving throw?
It's a saving throw, but that's the point. So someone will always make a saving throw against it. But yeah, it is a wisdom saving throw, but this thing, it's fucking hilarious. I love this thing. And he says he's pretty damn witty, so he's just going to be able to like knock him out.
Fucking love that, dude.
Brubel, thoughts on frustrating your DM so much they attempt to ban a multiple class combo? We'll link character sheet for context.
I am excited to see what that
is. Okay. That sounds fucking fantastic. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah. So this thing is basically just that. It does exactly what it says. It gives you a chance to get one item that you need, but the downfall is that this Vicious Mockery, I mean, disadvantage and 1d4 damage, especially on your own party members, and just to boot, he's just, as the DM, he's just going to sit there and talk shit every time you have a bad roll. Oh, and you asked about what happens when they use all the uses. It has another action that it takes. Upon the last use, it tells them farewell. And then it casts 3rd level fireball on itself. It's the only time it can be targeted by a spell is with its own spell. It kills itself by casting fireball on its location. So typically when the whole party is right there, just having used it. I'm sure it's blocked the link, but it's in D&D Beyond. I can take a look at that. We have a couple more things that we're going to be taking a look at here from our other viewer, but absolutely. Let me know the name of it, and we'll pull it up here in just a few minutes. So what do you think now that you know the full breadth of the Bag of Mockery?
All right. So at first I was like, that's kind of annoying, but whatever, you know. You get some random magic items, some spells you can cast out of it, whatever, it's cool. The fireball, especially because who knows what the fuck level you're gonna be when you find this shit.
Or when you use it. And that's the whole thing, is like you never... So I gave him an idea, right? So I would want to use this in a situation where imagine you have a gaming group where one of the players or one of the party members is an NPC, right? And you have them get this early on. And then a gaming session or two later, when they haven't used it yet, something happens to that NPC character. They all think he dies. Secretly becomes the BBEG. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they've had this bag the whole game. Maybe they've all used it, but it hasn't gone away. Maybe that's a clue that their friend hasn't died. I don't know. But the idea is, final battle of the BBEG, you can kind of have that pull-out moment, that one moment of the BBEG goes in, like, especially if they're really, like, losing. And it's like, he's going to go in for the final kill. Like, wait, do you want your one item? Just do that whole distract. He's like, I forgot about that. So the BBEG goes in for his final item, pulls it out, and then everyone just scatters. Because especially if they've been able to figure that out at the final by all of that time.
Oh my god!
If you could figure that out and actually have that as a trap, like there's so many different ways.
Here's the deal. You would have to have figured it out before discovering it was annoying. Because otherwise, the second you figure that shit out, you're like, fuck this bag.
Yeah, that's. But then you don't know about the fireball, so you're just.
So unless you know about that shit before, it pisses you off, and you're like, wait, what about the fireball?
Right, I like it. I really like this one. It was a fantastic concept. I think I told him that my only tweak that I would make it from my realm. So I like it as is. I don't know if I would quite use it, but to make it work for High Point, what I would have done is added in one other thing, because it's supposed to be for like funniness, right? It's obviously supposed to be from the God of Trickery. So my only issue is the ammunition. I said what I would probably do is add in anywhere between a 1 and 10% chance that the ammunition you use creates a random effect. So like like a 1% or a 5% chance that you pull out the bow, like you pull out the arrow and you fire it, and when it hits the enemy, it bursts into bubbles. Or Cosmic gave it a one where it's like it turns into a suction cup. So you like fire at an enemy and just like and then it's just like stuck on him permanently. Like any kind of a random, or like it could like heal the enemy. It could hit him and just heals him perfect. You do that to the BBEG mid-fight, just sensu beamed him. So because again, God of Trickery, it's like you're giving them all of this cool, interesting thing. You're giving them a cool companion. You're giving them one that kind of sort of neutral, is very neutral, right? Could be a them or is whoever rolls lowest. So it's really neutral in that, but the ammunition is a little bit harder for me. I love the concept. It's a great reason to keep it. But because it is a cursed item and because it's the God of Trickery, I would have to say at least 5% of the ammunition has to have a random effect, whether good or bad. It has to do something completely crazy. Because it just doesn't make any other sense, right? That would be my one. That was my one big thing. That was my one big thing. But I really do like this. You'd have to just send you the link. Can I search it by name? Would I be able to just search it up on Beyond? If not, I can take care of that here in just a second. All right, so let's see. So his biggest thing about this is that he has like 3 main purposes. So it's meant to be an item that grants free ammo based on refills, which is where I definitely say that it would be better to have a joke in there every now and again, because again, it's supposed to be one of those like random chance things. In the event that it makes it to the dungeon progression, and basically in the event that the team soft locks themselves, makes progression impossible. It's the one caveat where it will pull a plot item. And then otherwise, it's just literally comic relief. It's just supposed to be the shit talking bag that you can't get rid of. So, I like it. I think it could be really fun. I think it could be. Watch the video definitely if you want to.
I'm very excited.
Let's see here. You're in chat, right?
I am in chat, yes.
Can you take care of this while I pull this other one up?
Yeah.
Can you see if you can get the link?
Most definitely.
Kage's in chat right now, so he's gonna. I think you just have to DM him, and then we'll be able to share that with me. and then I'll be able to pull it up over here, and then I'm just going to get this other one pulled up. Let's see. Yeah, sharing them on this screen is not really beneficial. I'm just going to have them also have my own. If you want to look at that, I think you can. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll take a look at it all. We're actually looking at magic items that another one of our viewers, he was with me last week. He submitted these, did my reaction on them, and so now Kage's back in the studio with me, so we're just we're just blind reading them to him. He has no idea what these are, but I've already kind of had my fun with them. But yeah, definitely, we'll take a look at both of those. Let's see, what is our time frame? Yeah, we're making good time. We usually go for about 2.5 hours. So yeah, we'll definitely be able to load that in. And I'll probably be doing this again on Thursday as well. So let's see here. All right. So while you're taking care of that and seeing if we can get that linked up. Yes. This one is called the Cosminium Jewel.
Cosminium Jewel.
Yeah, this one's really cool. So if I remember correctly... No. This I believe is in the same world as that the god I was telling you about. The Cosminium is the gems made from the various organs that I was talking about. So they had the various abilities. So this is kind of like it tying in with that.
Gotcha.
So it is the Cosminium Jewel is a gem inside of a gem inside of a gem inside of a gem. In fact, it is one gem inside 1d4 other gems. So it's always one and then plus 1d4. So they're like shells. And the outside materials change. So you could have an outside of diamond and then look through it and see an inside of sapphire. And then inside of that sapphire be a ruby. And inside of that ruby be a jade. So that's what these things are. Is it's a 1d4... gem inside gem inside gem. The outermost gem is always a clear diamond, and there's always at least one additional gem inside that can be seen inside. Due to the cloudiness and imperfections of the gems, additional gems inside cannot be seen. So you always, because it's 1d4 plus 1, so it's essentially your outer gem and then at least one inside, and then there's an unknown amount beyond that. Whenever you're ready, I'll link the item, then the PC. Cool. So let's see here. Let's see. So when the player invokes the magical item, the outermost shell will glow and then shatter off, and that's how you use it. So you get so many uses, right? Each time the outer shell will shatter. When you use it, a number of, based on the chart below, a number of selected animals are then summoned in unoccupied spaces within 30 feet line of sight of the player, and then the item is destroyed upon final activation. So basically, it's a summoning crystal. Every layer is another type of summon. This is going to be what Cosmic wrote out. I have my own version of what I think would make more sense, at least for me. Mainly just because of our differences, but I do like where he was going with this. So let me make sure I don't have any other details. Okay, so this is how this one goes. The very first time, the outer shell, the first time you utilize this item, 8 fey animal creatures with a CR rating of 1/4 are summoned. So I looked this up at the time. Cosmic was here when I showed my weapon I made. Wait a second. Brewable, are you Bobicus? Is that what's going on here? Did you change your name? Because the only 2 people we've ever had in the chat at the same time was Bobicus and Cosmic, and now I'm confused because this is...
Is that what's happening?
I think that's what's happened.
No, but I see Bobicus over here. He's offline.
Wait, no. Yeah, but... No, it is a different person. I was just in the stream and he was sharing. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I must have completely missed that. Okay, my bad. Yeah. So if you were here last Monday, because I missed last Thursday. Yeah, if you were here last Monday, this was all Cosmic's build. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so if you were here, if you missed anything, I do have that one on YouTube as well. All of these get saved to YouTube just for future editing purposes. All right, so 8 fey creatures of 1/4 CR was the first use. I looked this up during stream. This one would be like blink dogs. So imagine 8 blink dogs. That's the first use. I was already hesitant. Because I had to look it up. Like, I was not familiar.
No,
I actually had to go look up.
When these get summoned, what exactly, like, how long do they stay?
Until they're destroyed, or 1 hour. 1 hour until they're destroyed.
Okay, so is this like according to the conjure animal spell?
I don't know if it's specifically based off that, or if he's basing this off of a more unique. Because the other one was specifically based off of spells. He actually listed those out. Yeah. This is, actually, so let's see. Technically, it is conjure animals, conjure elements is what he's trying to go off of. But it does last for 1 hour. So yeah, so the first use, 8 fey animals. So quarter CR is like blink dogs, right? So the next one, next layer.
Is it random, or do you get to choose?
Well, and that's the thing, is a number of selected animals are then summoned. So it's eight fey animal creatures, but there's not that many. Like, Blank Dog was the one that I was able to look up quickly on D&D Beyond. That was a quarter CR. So the next one, 4 fey animal creatures with a CR of 1/2. Then, then 2 with a CR of 1. Then on the 4th use, if you have 4 uses, a single fey animal of a CR of 2. And then on the 5th use, if you have the full 5, the 5th use, and I do like this, I really love this. I don't necessarily agree with that other one, but this massive change at the very end. On its 5th and final use, the magical essence changes from conjure animal to conjure elemental. As such, the player can summon either a water, fire, earth, or air elemental with a CR of 5. 5 or lower, it says, but let's face it, who's going to summon anything less than a CR of 5? But I love that. I love this concept of upgrading in. If you got the ultimate gem, if you were able to roll the ultimate gem, you get an elemental. Loved it. My biggest changes. I really think that because he does mention that it can be any types of gems, my biggest things would be when you obtain one of these, you roll the 1d4 to find out how many internal gems there are, right? Because you're always going to get one, but you want to see if you can get all of them. Then I would have them roll for the gem type of each gem, right? Of each gem inside.
Right.
Because in my opinion, what it should be is either one of two things. Either the gem, like it should be the gem and then the layer decide the 2 factors. And it should either be that the gem decides the type of creature and the layer decides the number, or the layer decides the creature and the type of gem decides the number. Because to me, that would make it more random and make it not so. It would still give you the chance of progression because the layer still bumps up like the layer could bump up the CR, the type could bump up the number of fey creature. Like if you want to keep it at fey animal creature, that's fine. I would say then do layer and type to decide CR, and like the layer is the CR because it gets stronger, but maybe the type should be like a dice roll. So if you roll ruby, you get 1d4, but if you roll, an opal, maybe you get like a 1d6. So every types of gem would, I think that would make a better progression, and it would make this more suitable to be built, because otherwise just going off of this, it doesn't matter what they're made out of, and why even add that detail in there. But to me, the more expensive the gem, the higher the CR, or the more you should be able to summon, because that's how magic works, right? Most magic items, the better the magic, the higher the quality cost should be. So if you're using higher quality gems, you should be able to...
I was almost thinking the gem might determine the element.
The final gem, I would say so. I would say you have to roll the final gem, and the final gem color would totally be the final element. I would do that myself. But I don't know. I think all of the gems should be rolled for, and I think the gem type should have an impact on either the power or the amount that you get. You both have whispers blocked, so I can't DM it. Oh, really? Weird. I probably set that up like when I first set up the stream for like just distraction purposes. You have whispers turned off, so he can't private message you.
I don't know how to do that.
I'm assuming I set it up. I'm assuming that my wife helped me do that when I first set up all of this, just to turn it off for
that's probably
privacy and protection. So I have no idea what I did, but yours is probably set off for default. But what do you think about this? This ever more powerful summoning item That again, you can't reuse it until basically I think it's like yeah, and you can just keep reusing this as soon as all the creatures are gone. So either after 1 hour or all of the creatures that you summoned are dead, you can immediately reuse it
until it's expired. Okay. And then once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. And another small detail that he added in here. He said it in chat. I don't think he said it in this. But it's created specifically by alchemists and artificers.
Interesting. So, do they intentionally add each layer? Or do they themselves... Now, and I know this might be getting a little...
This is where he has to be here. I don't know why he's not here to answer these questions, because I don't know.
Because that would be incredibly interesting if they could craft one, if they could intentionally craft one with the 5th diamond, right? You know, like, you know, you roll for like which one you find in a dungeon or whatever, but like, you know, the chances that you could find out there, or like as somebody like can literally craft or like make one of these,
right?
I mean,
because I'm pretty sure, when we talked on chat, I'm pretty sure he said that these are created, they aren't out in the world. So, I don't know. I like it. It's not my favorite item. I think that the summoning can be tweaked.
Very creative.
But I kind of like it. I mean, it's like a Pokeball. It's kind of like a multiple Pokeball. Like, you could just just bringing things out.
That is kind of dope.
I love the build.
I'm a sucker for summoning. And,
I love the entire build. My biggest thing was just balancing out what you're summoning and not have it so consistent. I don't think every single person who holds one of these should know what to expect. Because think about this. If I have one and the enemy has one, do you want to be the DM that literally has 16 blink dogs on the battlefield?
I mean, listen.
I'm just saying. I don't want to deal with 16 blink dogs that are on both sides of the battle, right? Like, broadcaster. Oh yeah, I could see if it would allow me through the broadcaster, because it should tell me what you're posting. Let's see here. Can I? No. You know what is probably the other issue too is I'm not technically logged into Twitch. So I also wonder if is that why I'm not getting...
Pretty confident I am.
Well, you have to be because you're watching it, right?
Yeah.
I just don't want to do all of this right now.
So rude.
No, I changed a whole bunch of stuff, and I had to log out of everything, and now because I've changed recently all my Twitch stuff, my login's different. I'm never prepared for things like this. I just expect to get on and start talking, and then I never expect to have to do anything extra. That's the problem.
Listen.
How?
It's always something. It's fine.
But
I do want to give my thoughts real quick on this item. So I really like the concept. I love this ability to instantly create something like boom, you are covered in your protection, in your boys. 8 creatures out the gate. Like, so, okay, the lowest you could roll would be what? 2? So you'd roll a 1 on your D4, and so you'd have this one and then 1 inside of it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you would get your 8 out the gate, and then you would get 4 more after that. That's a beautiful... And what is this, very rare?
I think so. This one wasn't as fully developed yet, so I think this one was very rare. Let's see if it comes
that's a pretty good item. That's a pretty good item, just even at its lowest level. And pumped up, it can get very, very, very cool. I do understand what you mean about making it specific.
It worked.
And
Kage of the bearded.
You got
Kage
it?
of the bearded one. Yeah. All right, we'll get into the Kage of the bearded one soon.
Ooh, the Kage of the bearded one.
Yeah, we'll get into that here. So yeah, I think it has a lot of merit. I think it's a great build overall. I just think that I would prefer to have more roles, and I would have to prefer more variety in it. But otherwise, I can't. I don't think the build itself is wrong. I think it's well thought out. All right, let's do this last one from Cosmic, and then we will roll over to the newest one, the Kage of the bearded one, and then we'll see if we can get that class information as well. All right, so this one's really fascinating. I like this one. I think Cosmic wanted your opinion on this one the most.
Okay.
So it's called Robe of Accumulative Knowledge. Now, I'm going to skip ahead because I didn't get the description of this until the very end, and the description of this is the best part. So it is a light armor robe, very rare item, does require attunement by a spellcaster. It will grant you 14 armor class plus your wisdom modifier with a max of +3.
Very cool.
The robe is comprised completely of pages from spellbooks and tomes, and is held together by a mending cantrip.
That's so cute. I love that.
It sounds dope. Like, I'm just imagining, I think he said something that, like, all of the edges are, like, slightly singed, so they look like slightly burnt pages. And then what's really interesting is that...
Yo, that's actually crazy powerful, too.
Yeah, so check this out. So upon attunement, the DM rolls 2 d10s.
Wait, give me the name one more time.
Robe of Accumulative Knowledge.
Robe of Accumulative.
So upon attunement, there's 2 d10s that are rolled, and then every day these d10s are rolled every single day. The d10s indicate resistance. This robe comes with 2 random resistances upon attunement, and then they reset each day. The resistances are acid, cold, fire, force, lightning, necrotic, psychic, poison, radiant, and thunder. 2 d10s are rolled to determine what 2 resistances you get. If the same number is rolled on that day, you get immunity of that one type. And, cool part about the robe, upon each day, only when you get immunity. When you roll the same number and you get immunity of one of these things, the ink on all of the pages will change color. It will, like, flow through all the pages and change color to that specific immunity for that day. Yeah, that's what this thing can do. But you also, at the start of each day, the player has to roll a DC 20 Arcana check to know what their resistances are, which I do like that.
Interesting.
You get one chance. You have to roll your DC 20 twice, and you might be able to know what your resistances are. Or I think once, and you get to know both. But you only get one chance per day to get it. So you basically have to, like... So that's cool, because you may or may not... Like, it's cool if you know, but that would really suck if you don't know what your resistance is for that day. But the immunity, like rolling 2 of the same number and getting immunity...
At the very least, you'd know you got to... Well, yeah, you'd know.
You would know immunity, but you wouldn't know what type if you didn't memorize all the colors.
Yeah.
So I like this one. I had a really hard time seeing anything negative to this one. I'm going to check my notes. I don't think... Oh, yeah. My only note that I could really say is that I don't know if I would hand this... If I were to have this in my realm, it would not be handed out as a magical item like in a shop or anything. This would be one of those... This is worn by either a allied NPC who is slated to die, or like an enemy NPC who is slated to be fought. Like, this would be a dope-ass item to put on an NPC that could then be earned. Like, you beat the NPC and there is his robe. Or he wasn't wearing it during the combat, and you're going through all this stuff, and is like, and you think you see the treasure chest under what looks like a pile of papers. Like, well, I toss the papers roll over all at once together, and you realize they're not papers, but they're a robe. And like this would not be an item I would normally have them be able to obtain. This would have to be something that they would have to earn, and I think it would just be better as a talking point. Like, it would be cool to have this item, but for me, in High Point, it would be much better to have this as a, look at the shiny over here. Come play this campaign, or come play this plot point, right? It's more of an attractor than it would be that's the goal, is to go get that. But I love it when, I've always liked it in D&D when certain enemies have like key weapons or just better weapons. They don't have to be like plot-based weapons, but I love when, you know, when adding in like named weapons every now and again, just something of much more ability than what the players have that isn't going to be game changing, but they will pick up, and that will just be now their weapon from here. Like, I like those moments, and that's where this robe, I feel, would be later game, maybe like second or third enemy to the main boss, like the big BBEG. Maybe this is like second or third underling, or even like a side quest, like even some mad like wizard side quest who's just a mad wizard, and he only has power because people think he's immune to everything, but it's only because he has these rotating resistances. Like, just, it would be something that would be so much more fun to have and earn, but not be like sought after. Like, you didn't know you wanted this. This is just going to be kind of like in the background. That was my only critique, but I love this build. I really, really like how this robe works.
No, I think this mechanic is incredibly fun.
I think he's actually done really well. I mean, granting armor class 4 with a wisdom modifier, because you are a spellcaster that needs attunement, but a max 3 bonus. So, I mean, and again, of course, you'd probably have, and if he's not maxing it out at 20, that means that you can have a max of, 14 with a max of 3 bonus. So yeah, you can only have a max of 17 AC in this. So even as a spellcaster, you're not like really pushing the bounds of being a tank. But it is helpful.
I like it. I really do like it. And especially because of the AC boost. Like no, it is
especially for being light armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, to be honest, you have to be able to wear light armor. In most 5th edition classes, you can't, like, most spellcasters, most 5th edition spellcaster classes do not have the ability to wear armor.
Right.
Druids only have light armor, and they can't even wear anything that has metal on it. Granted, this wouldn't be that.
Well, because we're saying light armor, your standard light armor is padded, leather, and studded. You have 11, so padded is 11 plus dex, leather is 11 AC plus dex, and studded leather is 12 plus dex. This is a 14 plus wisdom with a max of 3.
Yes.
That's
more
pretty damn dope.
That's more akin to medium armor, because medium armor
is 12, 13, 14, and 15 if you go all the way up to half plate.
And then you get...
and it's a max 2.
A max 2,
then
unless you have medium armor master, which bumps you to the plus 3.
Right. And then heavy armor, I mean... we're looking at heavy armor at this point. You're solid.
Basically maxes you out at 18.
14, 16, 17, 18. So yeah, so what this is doing is this is giving you a base of ring mail, which is not bad for a magic user. If you're getting a ring mail level plus that bonus of 3, but that still wouldn't put you at a full plate.
Here's the change that I would make. He specified it to your wisdom modifier. If it can be attuned by any spellcaster, I would allow it to use whatever that spellcaster's
like wisdom,
spellcaster class,
or intelligence, right? Yeah,
or charisma, or whatever your spellcaster class is. I would allow that bonus to their AC to adapt to whatever your spellcaster class is.
I like that. Actually, yeah, no, that's a fantastic add-on. Is being able to have that modifier change depending on who's having. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, really great stuff, and especially coming from the universe with a god who decayed, and now that's a cave system, and his organs are like Bro,
See, the way
you're blowing my
people's minds
mind,
work,
man.
This is why I mess with this game, dude. This is where it's
Brewbolt.
at.
Now I'll say about my item. Okay, so Brewbolt has something to say about his item. It levels with the PC. At the
love
time,
that.
it was rather
I love that.
at the time was for rather round dwarf. That was Oath of the Glory Paladin. It is a keg with 2 handles on it, treated as a maul. That's dope. Okay, so let me go ahead. Let's see here. Can I go here and then I can turn?
Okay.
Hey,
Am
look
I
at that.
thinking it's like this? A keg with 2 handles?
And it's supposed to be a flavorful weapon. I wanted to have a strong
So
martial
I'm
weapon.
like
It's
just
been worked on.
smashing it on people's heads like this.
All right,
If this is what I'm imagining, then I'm already excited.
All right, so can I? Hey, there we go. Look at that. Boom. One of these days I'm going to fix chat, by the way. I'm going to make the chat a little bit better so it's more viewable. But hey, look at this. I can actually...
Oh, cool. Very nice. I like it.
Just on the fly, I was able to change that. I do like being able to learn a little bit of this. Granted, it had some strong requirements in order to actually use it. Okay, well, let's get into Kage of the Bearded One. Okay, perfect. Now, all of you guys can see that in chat, yeah? Just fine? That's all
Yes.
lined up in chat properly? All right. Let's go here and see what we got. Weapon, Maul, Legendary, requires attunement by a... Okay, so it must be a follower of Henself, as well as spend 1 full night carrying the hammer around. Attunement happens after you finish a long rest from passing out from excessive drinking. So you have to drink excessively from it, and then you get to start to attune with it. I like it. Already strong.
Long rest. That is a good attunement style.
I mean, I like that because especially see what I like
Now-
about that right out the gate is that it already sets character. Because a lot of things that have attunement, it's just spend time with it, whatever. It's just a thing you have to do. But this really sets a standard of character with the backstory of this item, saying that it's not just that you have to drink from it, but you have to get so drunk that you pass out. That is so much more of a ritual than most attunements.
Are we inferring that the excessive drinking is being done from the keg?
I would, to me,
it doesn't say that, but I'm assuming that that's what's happening.
Like, what is it, Brubel? Like, do you have to drink from it the whole night and pass out from the alcohol? I would assume that if you're trying to attune from it, you have to take it to wherever you can get alcohol, fill it up, and literally pass out from its alcohol, and then the next day it will accept you attempting to attune it. And then you have to walk around with it all day.
It's like you're in a drinking
nursing your
contest
hangover.
with it.
Just keep reading. Okay, he says just keep reading. We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
All right.
I'm liking it already, though. No, but I love how it sets character. Like, that's already something that I'm already down for. All right. Adorned with the symbol of Hanseath, the keg is larger than your average barrel of ale. Although it goes through the trials and tribulations of its wielder, be it a long night of song and festivities, or combat against many foes, it appears to never be damaged, nay, even scratched. It is said that truly devout followers of Henseth can throw ingredients into the barrel and brew fresh and unique drinks that always come out magically chilled. That's interesting. Okay, so it's like always chilled drinks that you can just kind of make on the fly. Base bonus, 1/2 proficiency bonus round down. So the base bonus is half your proficiency bonus rounded down. Each time the player reaches a new proficiency bonus, whether it be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the hammer gains a new charged property. Hammer's charges equals the player's proficiency bonus. Okay. All DCs for abilities equal 8 plus the con bonus plus proficiency bonus. So all DCs for abilities is 8 plus con plus proficiency bonus.
So let's give an example real quick. So con bonus of +3, probably going to be a dwarf. Con bonus is probably going to be pretty high. You already get a plus to Constitution just as your racial bonus.
Right,
so
right.
A +3 to Constitution, and we'll say, you're mid-level. Let's say you're level 5, so you get a +3 as a proficiency bonus as of right now. So right now, your base bonus is going to be half of that 3, rounded down.
It's going to be 1.
It'll be 1. and then you will have all your DC bonuses are going to be 8 plus 3, 11 plus your.
But again, it's going to go with the player, so that's always going to increase. But that's
Yes.
that's not a bad place to start though.
Yeah.
I'm liking it so far. No, that makes sense. Okay, so all DC checks. No, I don't disagree with that. No, I think 8's a strong number to start with. We'll keep reading, but I think 8's actually really strong. Let's see here. At proficiency bonus 2, on a hit, you can expend 1 charge to force a wisdom save from the target, or it is stunned. At the end of its consecutive round, it can repeat the roll until it succeeds and becomes immune to the save for 1 full day. Interesting. So you can't just keep stunning the same person over and over, so I like the balancing there.
It has similar mechanics to a couple of spells that I know.
Right, okay, so let's see here. So once you've gotten to 2 proficiency bonuses, basically on a successful hit, you can choose to make these charges, and these charges come from your proficiency bonus, right? So, okay, I'm liking that so far. I'm always on the fence on whether or not I like stunned as a trait or as an infliction.
Listen,
but right out the gate though, like as the first thing to hit, I think it works. I'm quite wisdom though. Really, wisdom saving.
I can.
I'm trying to think of like, is that how stun normally works?
No, but if
because drunk. It's a wisdom save because drunk.
Because drunk.
So, like, if you get hit with this thing and you use the charge, it's basically you're stunned because it like partially like intoxicates you.
God.
I'm kind of thinking that's what the idea is, but okay. So at proficiency bonus 3, you can expend 1 or more charges and chug from the keg as an action, healing 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus in health points.
Okay.
If used as a bonus action, it only deals 1d4 plus your proficiency bonus. So 1d4 plus a 1d6 versus an act. Is the extra 2 really worth an action? That's almost. I'm just wondering in terms of action economy, is that enough to make them not want to do it? Like I think I would almost either do maybe a 1d8 as an action and a 1d4 as a bonus action to just really drive home like it's really going to be beneficial, because a 1d6 as a main action, is that really that enticing versus a 1d4? You know what I mean? Like, is it really...
depends on how down you are. Well, okay.
My only thing is, like, think about in combat, if you were given the option to a 1d6 of health and you lose your chance to attack, or a 1d4 in health, but you can still...
What, if I'm below level 3, heck yes.
Well, yeah, depending on the level, but unless, in
a heartbeat. So, and that's the thing is, like, at proficiency bonus 3, I'm already in, like, what, level 5, level 6?
That's what I mean.
Right?
Is the development of this action economy... I'm just thinking of action economy. I would almost just say that if it's the difference between an action and a bonus action... I feel like there needs to be a wider gap. That would be my point. Is just I think I would add a wider gap to really drive home an action versus a bonus action.
But you are able to stack. So while the base is 1d6, imagine what 2d6 looks like, or 3d6
extra charge
looks
adds
like.
a d6. So, yeah, that is true. I mean, it does stack, or d4. Part of the reason it's low is because hypothetically you could use it out of combat. Okay.
Oh. Also, yeah.
But then doesn't that really get rid of the action versus bonus action if you can use it out of combat? Because then it would just just default to the action.
It's always more ideal to use the action, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you just use the max that you can get out of combat. So you're really only using it as a bonus action in combat if you really, really need to.
That's true.
Otherwise, you get as much healing as you want. Although, this is only something you can use on yourself, right? Yeah. Only the attuned person can benefit from this.
Yeah, so you can't like go around to your buddies. I mean, that would be the other beneficial option is it could always heal you 1d6 and it's stackable, but it can only ever heal another person 1d4, no stacking. That could be like maybe another balancing option, but I mean, I see what you're saying is being able to use it out of combat. It's just, and again, it's just the way I approach things. It feels well designed, but I think the problem is for me in my usage when I create things, it almost feels too deliberately designed. In terms of like a magical item in my realm and high point, I just don't feel like there's enough of a gap because, like you're saying, out of combat, you would just use the 1d6, which just makes the 1d4 not applicable out of combat. Like you would never you would never choose to use a bonus action out of combat. In combat, I do fully understand the action economy and wanting to have a bonus action.
Yeah.
But then at that point, because 1d4 is really the limit, like the bare minimum you want to give for health, I would still say that then if you're going to even have the option to do an action, make it really worth it. You know what I mean? Like a 1d6 versus a 1d4, in my opinion, just isn't as valuable. And saying, well, I'm always going to get a 1d6 out of combat and always a 1d4 in combat, it's like, if that's the idea, then why not just make that the rule? Like, you can only drink as much of 1d4, otherwise you're going to get too drunk to fight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can get more drunk out of combat than you could in combat. So you can drink... Like, that might be my way of justifying it. In combat, you can't drink as much, otherwise you would be inebriated. So therefore, you can only drink up to 1d4 of health. Out of combat, you don't need to be as aware, so you can get up to 1d6. But that's more semantical. It's not saying... That's not a judgment on this item, on whether or not it's good. But I look at it from the point of view of, if this were to fall into high point, or be created in high point, what would be the context around it? And I think that's where I would need it, is I would build this with a bigger gap just to really drive home why bonus action is better than the main action. But still giving that main action in combat worth it.
Right.
Because as like I said, as of right now, it really just, you might as well just say you can't get 1d6 in combat because it's not really that worth it.
Right.
But again, semantics. Let's see. Proficiency bonus 4 had to be changed due to out of combat situations. Oh, okay. Let me read that one and then let me know what it used to be. I keep doing this because I'm used to having this over here. But let me know what it used to be after we read it. Okay, so yeah, and then we did go, the extra charges adds it to 1d6 if used as an action, or 1d4 is used as a bonus action. I do really like the aspect of stacking. I really like the fact that you do have all of these being able to used as expendables for the hammer's charge. I always love charges. Those are a really great way to use that economy instead of just like leaning on the player spells and everything. Let's see, proficiency bonus 4. As a bonus action, you shout a rabble-rousing bellow expanding 1 charge. Up to 5 other creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you that can hear you gain 4d6 plus 6 temporary hit points and can ignore up to 1 level of exhaustion for the encounter. You cannot use this ability again until you finish long rest. I really like the rally call. It is something that I always find really good with with certain combat builds, and it's always really interesting. So let me read this again. So this is a bonus action, and you said that this had to be done. It's proficiency bonus 6 was vastly changed. Oh, okay, 6 was vastly changed. Gotcha. So proficiency bonus 4. So as a bonus action, you can rally. Okay, so bonus action, up to 5 creatures of your choice. 4d6 plus 6. That's a lot of hit points.
That's a good rally amount of hit points.
That's a huge amount for 5 people.
And
the level of exhaustion.
So now here's the deal. I'm a realist. I'm the person that's going to think. Now, very much depending upon your campaign, this could be way more likely for you than otherwise. How often are...
They also have to be able to hear you, which means the enemy can hear you.
But how often are one of your players, one or multiple of your players, going to be suffering a level of exhaustion like that? Right?
Right.
Like, how often is that feature going to be used? I do like the fact that feature's there and like what it means, because it's like,
Yeah, temporarily, like if you're in an, like if it takes 3 exhaustion levels for you to be at a negative, this could pop you back into being useful for the end of the fight.
Exactly. And there's one thing I think that I would add, just because for me, when I think of a rally, I think of like these guys are renewed going back into combat, and they are ferocious, and they're ready to like almost go crazy and like fuck shit up. I would be like, everybody who benefited from that, their next attack has advantage on whatever target they attack.
See,
something to that effect, something to actually affect them going back into combat.
Yeah, I think for me, you'll get that part too, trust. Yeah, 46. I mean, you're at proficiency level 4, so 46 plus 6. That's actually now that I'm doing the math, that checks out for that high of a level. Like that's going to be worthy of actually a second wind. Like that's a second wind right there. Level of exhaustion, I agree with. I agree with yours. What I would suggest to add from what you said to add to this is the base bonus action to pump people full of temporary HP, remove a level of exhaustion. I would say then for every additional point spent, every additional charge, one person of your choosing, up to 5, so up to 5 extra points can be spent, will have advantage on their next attack. I would say, because this is the only one so far that doesn't have you can't bump
it up.
But I loved it. I do think it's a good amount of. I think it's good hit points. I think the exhaustion works. But I also kind of agree with you that a rally call, right? But I think that's now adding too much. But if I could say, hey, I'm getting these 5 guys, or let's say it's just 4 on my team, right? These 4 guys, they're up. Yeah, so it's like boom, 4 of these guys are up. They have temporary hit points. This guy was exhausted. Now he's not. But you, my tank, or our fighter, you know what? Extra charge. You are getting an advantage. Go, just deck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you got, a rally is one thing, but to tell everyone gets an extra advantage, that's a lot. I mean, you're already saying that they're getting a second wind. So one of them, though, 1 or 2 of them to be pointed out and be like, and you specifically, you're like, I think you could. I think one or like adding an extra charge to be able to give. 1 charge for every person up to the same 5, right? So you can keep pumping it. But the idea is you can give 1 or 2 people, especially that would be better economy, especially if it's your turn and then it's 2 of your teammates' turn before the enemy turn, you'd only want to give them advantage, right? Because then there's going to be a cycle of other stuff. Yeah. So being able to do that, right? Pump it up to specifically make your teammates primed for their next attack. I would agree with that. But yeah, so far I'm liking this so far. This thing is really well done. It took me a while to get over this hit points, but now that because every time you mention it, we're thinking about this as progressing with the player as they level up. By the time they have 4 proficiency points, we're talking about what, like close to level 9, like 7 to 9.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how many.
I'm
trying to think of like at what level you would. Yeah, you'd have to be over like level 8 by now. So with that, you're definitely. You're breaching well over 60 hit points.
Classes. Let's go, monk. Why not? Let's look at your table. Proficiency bonus +4 is at level 9 to level 12.
There you go. So I knew it. And yeah, you're looking at what? Like, I mean, you have to be looking at minimum 60 hit points for the average player at that point.
Probably. So again, amongst hit points, what's their hit dice? It's a D8.
Is it?
It's basically going to be a D8
9 times.
Yeah,
8 times 9. So yeah, so at least 60 something. So okay, yeah, no, that checks out.
Checks out.
Okay, so far, yeah, I'm liking it. Really well balanced. I would just say, yeah, I think so far I would just add in the ability to bump this one up and then add advantage would be kind of nice. Or like you put it. The enemy can hear you. If this is a rally cry, I would even go this far. as a bonus action, you give up to 5 allies this much hit points. You can remove a level of exhaustion. I would go so far as to say that for every additional point spent, you can either grant one ally for every point, one ally advantage on their next attack, or one enemy disadvantage on their attack. As in your rally cry shook them. Like your rally cry, they saw you rally, they saw your guys get up, and now they have disadvantage on their next attack because they're like, holy crap. Like, I just throwing this out there, but like I would add the alternate.
I have an interesting tweak to because I like that idea, but I'm thinking, what if it was more like Bane instead of disadvantage, because your multiple investments could stack. So say that there's like a really, really, really big thing that's really scary, and it's going to be really hard for it to not hit us, right? Giving it a 2d4s negative to it could be better for me than giving it disadvantage.
So just like give it a negative for like negative to hit instead of a disadvantage.
So instead of giving a disadvantage, whenever I put another charge into it, I can apply a negative d4 to its next roll. So it rolls its d20, and then it rolls a d4, and it takes that away from its roll. And then if I put a second charge into it, I can give it 2d4s it has to roll against itself. Okay. Right?
Yeah. I'm liking that. I just think, that would be kind of fun to have the ability to charge it. And just, again, because Brewball, you brought up that the enemies can hear you, so they're going to be aware of this. Being able to charge this and even kind of like get into their heads, I think would be kind of cool. But he does say that we have to get to 6.
Oh, 6.
Okay, so proficiency bonus 5. So now we're getting into past level 12, right?
Yes.
Now we're getting a really late game. So this is a very late game. You become immune to poison damage and the poison to condition. In addition, the number of hit points regained from the proficiency bonus 3 feat is increased to 3d6 as an action and 3d4 as a bonus action. Gotcha. Okay, so back when he said that you can do as an action for healing, it gets bumped up to 3d6 and 3d4.
Bet.
So that makes a little bit more sense.
Is the increase still by 1, or is the increase now by an increment of 3?
Well, before it was if it was used as a healing action, it was 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus, or as a bonus action 1d4 plus your proficiency. Once you reach proficiency bonus 5, using it gives you a 3d6 as an action or a 3d4 as a bonus action.
But it says each extra charge adds a d6.
I'm assuming the extra charge would add a 3d6 at this level.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so one charge will add 3d6.
Yeah,
and
that's how I read it.
Will add 6d6.
So it would go up to 3d6 each time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's... Well, and you got to think, at this point, you're well over 100 hit points. There would be no point in adding a d6 to a 3d6 roll for a whole extra charge would be ridiculous at this point. You'd have to match. Yeah, that would make a lot... That makes a lot more sense bumping it up to there.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I don't know if that overrides what... I don't know if that overrides what I said before about there should be a higher gap, but it helps. It does help, and I do like that this... I like that you're not just trying to create a new thing every new proficiency. I like that you're going back and bumping and building on what you've already had. That's something that I see a lot of people who create homebrew stuff. I think they try to be too unique in every little thing that they're like, well, no, everything says that. I'm like, there's a reason why everything says that. That's the consistency this game is. Like, it's like there's a reason why there's always like a certain... descriptor in every single weapon that's a melee weapon. Why? Because they all need to have that for the consistency. And a lot of people try to be like, no, everything has to be new and unique. I had a problem with this. When I was creating spells and magical items, I would do that very thing where I would be like, oh no, every little new thing would be like something great. And it's like, no, sometimes you just have to double down, quite literally, or triple down on what you've done already, because that can be so much more powerful and worthy of getting through the level up process than giving someone just something new that's unique but not necessarily useful. Especially in this, it's also taken into account the fact that this is going to be very late game. They're going to be over level 12. They're going to have well over 100 hit points.
Yeah, this takes you all the way up to level 16.
Yeah, so the thing is when it comes down to, if this hadn't happened,
I just love
you're still
that this,
dealing with the 1d6 hit points.
Still, that this is something that actually can stick with you and progress with you through the game. Like that
and it's taken into account that, again, like I said, like if you're this high and you still only from this item get a 1d6, it's long lost its healing purpose, right?
Yeah.
But this makes it so much better, and I do like that. I also kind of like how it also almost like ties into its own lore, because obviously that means the drink is getting more powerful with the player. So that like would make sense why you have to get blackout drunk on it to attune with it, because it, in my opinion, like in High Point, how this would work is the reason why you have to get blackout drunk is not because you have to, but to attune with it you have to take a drink from it. The first drink will always make you pass out because of its previous owner was a higher level than you, so its natural alcohol content is more than you can handle. So the first time you try to attune with it, anytime you try to attune with it because it was owned by someone higher level, it will always knock you out. Then you have to retry. And that's when you get the whole... That's how my lore would work. That. Because the way I read this, the higher level you are, the more powerful the drink is inside.
It would be crazy if you just like roll anyways, just to see what you get. Just to see what you get. I mean, like, it's like a DC 45, but like you could try.
Oh my god, what would be really great is like I do owe someone a roll where it's like, let's say if you can attune with the first time. No one ever gets to attune the first time. Let's say you can, right? Let's say it's like it's, you know, a mall from like one of the highest like ever dwarves, right? Let's say they crit roll and they're just like fucking aced it. Fucking, you know, nat 20 in my realm, right? So they just nat 20 roll it. I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to take that away from you. Nat 20, you attune the very first time. Congratulations. All mortal alcohol now has no effect on you. Now you have to wait for this mall to level up before you can actually have alcohol again and actually feel drunk. Can you imagine doing that to a dwarf?
No! They would just kick ass to level up as fast as fucking possible. Fuck you, I need my ale.
This is the stuff that you guys do to me. Like, when you give me stuff like this, all of a sudden, when I have to try to put it in High Point terms, all of a sudden that's what High Point does. It just...
Alright, you know Brooby's penis pants, because we're at level 6 is next.
Okay. Proficiency bonus 6. Alright, you spend 1 charge, yell the command word, any form of cheers or toast of your choosing, and slam the keg onto the ground, allowing fine drink and ale to explode in a 20-foot radius from you. The area becomes difficult terrain for enemies and allies of your choosing are not affected by this. Treated as the grease spell. In addition, your allies who can hear you bellow your mighty praise gain advantage on all rolls or saving throws for the encounter.
Oh, fuck.
That's an OP. That's a hell of an endgame buff. So that's it. So you have a command word, so you're going to spend a charge, slam it down. You make a 20-foot radius of difficult terrain, and your entire party has advantage on all basically on all rolls and saving throws. The entire encounter. That's a BBEG move right there. Like that could turn the tide of a battle quick.
So here's the deal. I would say even like, and again, I always think of like hypothetically, like you were talking earlier, say you want him to earn this weapon off of somebody, right? And what do you think's gonna happen if the big bad evil guy uses this ability right here on your party, and he's got like a bunch of henchmen around him, and all of these dudes just get advantage for the rest of the encounter.
This is what I did last week with cosmic stuff, is you and I always think of the same way of like, in order to test out stuff, we put it both in like our own hand. Like I always put it in my hands as a player. I put it in players that I've played with as hands, and then I put it in my NPC's hands. Like I always try, because if in my opinion, if you make an item specifically designed for an NPC or specifically designed for the party, you're not properly balancing it. And it's not because even if you say, well, it's only for the party and no NPC is ever going to use it, like you can have that as a rule, but that doesn't mean it's balanced because you're not thinking about how it can be used in all of its ways, right? Like, players are crazy. Your BBEG has a bunch of henchmen. There's nothing stopping your players from gathering enough money and telling you they're hiring a bunch of NPCs and then doing this very thing. I'm just saying, like, but no, you and I think of the same way because I was doing that with cosmic stuff last week where I'm like, well, let's see if I turned this into the BBEG weapon, like, how would that fall out? Like, that would hurt.
That used to be
let's see.
An hour-long buff. What? The actual what?
Wait. What
it
used to be an
hour-long buff, not just for the encounter.
Oh, the whole save the advantage.
That's
why you said you had to change it for out of combat because it used to last an hour. So can you imagine you do that at the bar and then you just go and have like advantage on persuasion, you have advantage on you just go through the town and just like but you know what? This could actually be used for some really interesting like roleplay though, because let's say you're at a festival, right? Or let's say you're at like a fancy gala and you need to go talk to somebody, but there's people there that constantly are getting in your way. So you have the guy do this as like a cheers, and they're like, oh, I spilled, oops. And then you just select all of the people who are getting in your way to have problems moving, and then you guys just walk right up to, the host and get to have your conversation, and you just completely bypass all of his minions who are slipping and falling and having some issues.
That's funny. I like that.
There's a lot of ways that this could be used. No, I like the change. Changing it from an hour to the encounter, spot on. If I had read this and it was for an hour, I would probably have changed that to something else, like a turn or something. But the encounter makes a lot more sense. I'm trying to think. It's like part of me almost wants to say that it's lacking something. But I know that advantage on basically on all rolls, like all rolls, all saving throws. That's enough. Like it's hard to say
that it doesn't actually, but it effectively doubles your action economy.
It really
every single strike is now 2 strikes, or at the very least 2 opportunities to strike. Right? If you would have missed, you didn't.
You know what?
Or such an increased chance to get that natural 20
true, but the evil
to get
guy
double
would have
damage.
Kage from Hasith. You can't even use it unless you're a follower of him. It would have to be an NPC item. Yeah, thank God a piece domain cleric can't have this. You know what I'm thinking here? I think I know why this doesn't feel right, and it's not that it's not powerful enough. But my brain is saying that, at least from the high point of view, the progression doesn't feel right because I think I think here's what I would do. Not exactly this. This is just on the fly, real quick. But here's what I would do. Single charge, command word works, 20-foot radius of difficult terrain totally works. Everything so far works. I would say that anybody that could hear you, any ally that can hear you, has advantage on rolls for their next turn. So, or until for the next essentially till the end of your next turn. Anybody that can hear you has that. I would almost say that if you want it to be for the entire encounter, I almost want it to basically be because you're spilling the beer. I almost want it to be any ally that gets hit by it gets a bigger bonus than the allies that can hear you.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like it's almost like I don't know if I like
if you catch some of the ale, then you
maybe you get healed. Maybe if any of your allies in the 20-foot radius get hit, like if they're in the 20-foot radius, maybe they get temporary hit points, like you were giving them earlier. Like it just seems like as much as advantage is really, really strong, I almost feel like there's just one tiny piece lacking, and that might be where I add it. Is you get all of this, everybody gets advantage because it's like the uber powerful, we are going to fucking win this battle because it's like endgame shit. But I would almost say that anybody like in that radius of difficult terrain maybe gets like temporary hit points or something.
So he also says that the progression's also supposed to mimic a night of partying and drinking. So this is almost like the finale, like
Right.
the end of the night before you pass out or whatever.
No, and that
I
does
do like that.
Yeah,
I do like that cinematically.
I just feel like because you can get a lot of healing from this, but because like the proficiency bonus for that, like, well, I guess yeah, if you are progressing, if you are supposed to be using this as you go through the battle too, or as you go through the night for the campaign, you rally everyone, you give them their second wind with all of that extra HP, with all the temporary HP. And then you can rally them almost again by giving them advantage. So I guess, yeah, if you're being able to do these, and again, this is all based on charges. So I mean, even if you had multiple charges, it's not like you can't just do these back to back, rally them, and then give them advantage back to back. There's nothing that says you can't stack these. So one
That's
round
true.
you could rally everybody, because you could do the proficiency bonus 6 first, do the command spell, make the difficult terrain, give everyone advantage for the rest of the goddamn fight, and then halfway through the fight, rally them, give them the other bonus word.
Yeah, because these are not spells like concentration.
Yeah, they're
spells
just
or anything.
charges.
Yeah.
So maybe maybe you wouldn't need to be. Yeah, so maybe proficiency 6 doesn't need to be changed because it isn't in a specific order, and it's because it's not locked to being used by itself. So it doesn't need to do anything else. Although I still think it would be kind of cool if the beer splashing on people actually did something.
Yeah.
But because these are in any order, then it doesn't need it, because you could do just one charge for bonus 6, one charge for bonus 4, and now everyone has advantage and they have a bunch of temporary HP. God, this would be a late game nightmare for certain battle. I mean, can you imagine you're walking into the battle? All right, guys, everyone gets advantage. Everyone starts the match with HP. Let's go.
Like
just
said,
roll through.
it's the end of the night drinking, man. Everybody's about to swoop and rally, man.
All right. 3 previous versions. All right. So let's see here. And then proficiency with them all allows you to add your proficiency bonus to the attack roll for any attack you make with it. What was this? Acts as a maul.
Wait, is that proficiency bonus in addition to the proficiency bonus half rounded down?
Well,
Because
this
if you look at the top,
it says base bonus.
yeah, the base bonus is on top of that bonus at the end.
So I think what this is if you're using this, because if you're a follower and using this, you already get half your proficiency bonus. But if you are proficient with them all, you add... So I'm going to make an assumption, and this is saying that without proficiency in Maul, you get to add half your proficiency bonus. If you have proficiency with the Maul, you get your full proficiency bonus. That's how I would read it. I don't know if that means you get 1.5. Because that's what you're suggesting, right?
No, so the way I understand this is the proficiency, that's just in D&D 5th edition, when you are proficient with a weapon, what you get to do is add your proficiency bonus to your attack roll.
Yes.
That's just a 5th edition thing.
Yes.
Is that what this is referring to? It's
Yes.
just saying that,
So-
mentioning that 5th edition thing?
Yes, because
Okay.
previously it was mentioned that I think the idea is that because you can use this if you're a follower of Hanseth.
Yeah.
So if you are not proficient in them all,
Then you
would get
yeah.
half your proficiency bonus.
But so that
which you
half,
normally would not.
that half is like is akin to, the way I read it, is akin to like a +1 maul. Like,
I see.
so that's the way I'm thinking of it, separately to, so that's like when you get this weapon, whatever your proficiency bonus is, you cut that in half and you add that as a +1. So, you know,
Gotcha.
when you have a proficiency bonus +3,
Okay.
then you get a +1 maul. But when you get a proficiency bonus +4, you get a +2 maul. And then when
All
you
right.
get all the way up to proficiency bonus 6, you get a +3 maul.
All right. So I guess we'll just have to go to the source. So which is it? Is it half unless you have a proficiency with them all, and then it is just your proficiency bonus? Or is it you always going to get half your proficiency rounded down, and if you have a proficiency, you're adding that to your proficiency bonus, as he said. I don't know how else. That is very complicated to condense.
It was definitely.
But yeah, basically, is it designed to always give you half your proficiency regardless, or is it designed to give you an additional half bonus, like additional bonus to your proficiency by half? We'll have to wait till he responds because it's his build, so I can't. I see how you read it. I see how you're saying, because I think the reason why we're seeing it differently. I see that you read it as you're gonna get this as a bonus no matter what, even if you're proficient with the weapon. Like you're always gonna get this. The reason why I read it as he's trying to make a clarification that if you don't have the Maul proficiency, you can still add your half bonus because it says base. Because it says base bonus, it's saying that no matter what, if you are a follower and you hold this weapon, at bare minimum, you will get half your proficiency bonus. But if you are proficient, you're just going to get the full bonus as normal.
Got it. I see what you're saying.
I think it's a safety net, not an additional bonus.
Well,
let's see what he says. So, the Maul is supposed to level with you, so it would go +1, then +2, then +3, if that makes sense. Because if the weapon never got stronger in melee combat, what's stopping you just using the charges, then switching to a stronger weapon? So, right. So that means that... So, base bonuses down. Well, he's saying like what you said. So it's going to be a +1, then a +2, then a +3.
So, right. And so you get a +1 at level 2 and level 3.
Right.
So at proficiency bonus 2, it's a +1. Proficiency bonus 3, it's a +1. Proficiency bonus 4, it's a +2.
Right.
Proficiency bonus 5, it's a +2. And proficiency bonus 6, it's a +3.
Gotcha.
So that's what the progression is. So it's like every 2 levels, it goes up by a +1 because of the way that base bonus looks like. So that base bonus is the plus of the weapon.
Gotcha. Okay, so that is an additional regardless. So that last part is saying that if you are proficient in the Maul, you're going to now also get your full proficiency bonus on top of this one.
And I think the biggest difference is that base bonus applies to your attack and damage rolls. And at the bottom there, I don't think that proficiency bonus adds to your damage rolls. Because normally getting proficient in a weapon, you only add your strength modifier to the damage roll, not your proficiency bonus to the damage roll.
That's right.
So,
it would be kind of crappy if you have this sick weapon and you just only end up using it as a magic wand, pretty much. No, I absolutely agree with you. We were just trying to argue the semantics of what you were... It's what we do when we find rules, is we just try to make sure that we not arguing that whether or not you're correct, we're arguing whether or not we understand what you're saying. But no, this is actually really cool. Like I said before, I like that it has a lot of character right out the gate. It suits a certain type of playstyle. It suits a certain type of theme and setting. But it can also be expanded beyond that, like it can be held by a player even beyond that campaign. It has a great, even its usage, if you were to properly use it over time, it tells a story. Like you said, it's kind of like a progression through the night of drinking, and I really can't get over the fact that you had a lower end of healing, and then you came back, and then you bumped up that healing again.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that is missing in so many things that, like, especially with subclasses. You see all these subclasses that they give you something cool, but then after a while you're like, you never retouched on this, and now it doesn't work anymore after, like, 5th level. And it's like, you gave me this, but why? If you're not going to come back and boost it. And I think that's where you and I do a lot of our side work is, we like to have the books and the main game as our foundations, but I think where you and I mainly differ is how do we take things from, well, that's nice the first time you use it, but what do people really do in a real world where magic is real and ever evolving, right?
Yes.
We like to look at what can this be more of in a world where people are going to use this more than once. because I do like that, where it's like there are some magics where I hold more strict to the rule, the like rules as written, because they're more rare items. So it's more likely that item is going to work exactly how it works in Legend.
Yeah.
But this is why I like with cantrips. I never really keep cantrips the same, and I try to keep cantrips kind of very personalized, because it makes more sense for something that's kind of used lawfully every day, that's very innate, that's very easy for someone to just work with. It's much more understandable that's going to be unique to them and very, very specific to their needs in everyday life. Whereas someone who, casts a spell that takes, months and years to gather all the materials for, they're probably only going to do it the exact same way, right? I mean, I equate it to like cooking. Everyone has their own way of making mac and cheese. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own way of frying up a fish or cooking a steak, or everyone has their own little, unique way of making that very easy dish we can all make. But when you're going to do like a beef Wellington, you're going to just follow the damn recipe, because it's too complicated to try your own thing, right? There's too many layers. There's too many precise ways of cooking it. You got to get it all just right. There's just certain things you're just going to be like, look, just follow the book. And that's kind of how I treat magic, right? The more rare the item is, the more specific I'm going to be about it, because it makes more sense that it was used so rarely that it's only one way of knowing how to use it. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to show you this DM of a nightmare playing character. Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting. So, wow, we are already at our 2.5 hour mark. So I'm going to go ahead. I got to rate this real quick. So let's see here. Overall, so I think with the other ones, I think Cosmic came out to an average of 8 out of 10 high points. I think 2 of them got 8, like a full 8 out of 10, and one of them got like a 6, because it wasn't. It was the Crystal. Got a 6, but that's just mainly because I don't really have a place for it. 8 high point, so and it took the most to change.
Right.
But the other 2 got like a solid 8 out of 10. So he kind of just ended with some, and I loved the backstory and how they're all connected, so he got a full 8.
I like it.
So let's see. So Kage of the Bearded One. Well, let's see. I am logged in. Is it? I don't think this is public, Brubel, is it? I don't see. You're not accepting rates, so I can't rate it. I would rate it as a plus. I would definitely have upped this one. I think it's well thought out. I think I find myself, now that I've read it, I find myself lacking a backstory. Where did this come from? Who made it? What is it? Like it's his Kage, but I want to know so much more. Is there only one in existence? Are there multiples? Was this his when he was immortal? I want to know. I don't know anything about Hanseth. I don't know if that's yours or if that's an actual D&D like person.
I don't know specifically.
But might be. I would say that I would love to know more. I would love to have at least 1 or 2 paragraphs explaining either the backstory or more about it. But overall, I think it's an impressive build. I think it's well thought out. I think it follows a great concept for a story. Like, I think it has a great backstory for it already in terms of how it's used, what it's for. I think it shows a lot about the types of followers you're going to find from Hanseth. I think it tells a lot about who Hanseth is. So that's already great. I think it levels up properly, and I think it also plays to the type of character and the type of build that you're going to use with this, because it's definitely not meant to be a... I wouldn't call it a clerical weapon, but it's also not like an actual weapon. Like, this definitely feels more paladin-y. Like, yeah, it definitely feels... Kinda. This feels more like that paladin level weapon, and I like that. But it doesn't give off that holy weapon vibe. It's really... It's steeped into what it is. Yeah. It is very much what it is, and I like it. I'm going to give this one 9 out of 10 high points. It is just shy of me wanting to straight out... Because as I said in my last stream, 10 out of 10 means I'm basically going to want to steal it. Like, if I give 10 out of 10, I'm probably already recreating something similar because I like it. This is... I love this. I'm going to say the same thing that I did to Cosmic last week with the item that he had, the Sid item, the the Satchel of Individual Desire.
Yeah.
Similar with that, this is just shy of me wanting this as is, but the only thing keeping me from it is because most of the deities in my realm all have their own item like this. Like, all of them like to just throw stuff out into the mortal world. This would fit perfectly. Like, this build would absolutely fit very well in the rest of those. I just don't have a place for this particular type of campaign or a particular deity that this would fit right now. So that's the only real reason why it doesn't come straight over for a 10 out of 10. Plus, there are a few things, like I said, that for not partly for just personal reasons, but also to better fit in High Point, there are a few tweaks I would make, like widening the gap a little bit, and then maybe making that final one just a little bit different in terms of like the splash radius. But I can't find anything wrong with it. I will say that there's nothing wrong with it.
I have an interesting thought about this weapon. So I know needs to be attuned by a follower, but I'm thinking that what about a drunken boxing monk? Right? And like this monk, I mean, I know they're not religious in the same way that clerics and paladins necessarily are, but you know, like their spirituality.
I'll take 9 out of 10 for my first item.
What's that?
He said he'll take 9 out of 10 for his first item.
But like taking the spirituality aspect of a monk and like incorporating it with the style of drunken boxing and this like Kage from this like drunk, like I really...
So I have an idea that I've been toying with in terms of a drunken fighting style, and it's not so much I didn't really want to create like a whole new like combat style or anything else like that, but there is like a class I was kind of toying with where the hardest part is balance, but I wanted to make it to where not so much like this where it's more like magically imbued, but I wanted to make it to where how can I balance out a fighter that your fighting stats improve when you drink, but other stats don't. So like I wanted to create a build to where for every drink you did, like essentially we would make you 2 different character sheets, right? Like first one was like a basic sheet, and then the other one would be more like a combat focused sheet. And the idea is that once we created like the ideal like power up for your character, it would be for every drink you would get closer to that like max out, right? So we'd kind of build this like array character where your actual strength is like 17, but without alcohol it's like a 13. And then every time you drink, you get closer. So your stats improve every time you drink. But the hard part is, how do I balance? Because it's not just as fun to be like, well, your intelligence just goes down. Like, that doesn't really affect you that much, right? So I started trying to play with, and then it got too complicated, which is why I haven't finished it yet. But the idea is like, you, out of combat, you are really good at certain things, and not good at combat at all. Like when you're not drunk, you're really good at certain things, but when you are drunk, you're good at others. So I was trying to look at, can I do like a strength and charisma boost when you get drunk, but you're like strength, wisdom, and charisma, and then like can intelligence, constitution, and stamina, or dexterity go down? And then how do you play that, right? How do you make them a really good fighter in combat with these negative stats, right? And that's where the hard part is. If you start dipping dex too low, the fighting doesn't really work out as good.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting build, but I was always off of like the Drunken Master movies and like just that fighting style of how can I make a build where it makes sense where you have to pick and choose when to get drunk.
I think I really like the idea because you can't just like instantly turn off being drunk.
Yes.
So I think I really like the idea of...
It's easier to turn it on than it is to turn it off.
Having the separation be like, okay, so my physical stats will go up when I drink, but my social stats will go down. So in combat, you want me here all day long, but the second we get out of combat, you better
need to shut me up.
You better hide me in the fucking vase somewhere. Otherwise, I'm gonna throw up all over the princess's shoes.
And that's what I'm thinking is like, and then you could add in like a uniqueness where it's like, then again, this is where I got too complicated because I was trying to have a lot of fun with different scenarios, and I'm like, well, how cool would it be where it's like, yeah, your physical stats, like your strength and everything go up, and your charisma goes up, but your intelligence and stuff goes down. So like, while you may at a certain point, like 2-3 drinks in, your charisma is really high, but then after another drink, it tanks immediately. So, like, whereas, like, let's say it's like a 6 drink range, right? To where, like, drink 3, your charisma's at its height. But at drink 4 and 5 is when your strength's at its height. But the moment you get to drink 4, your charisma immediately takes, like, a -6 tank. So, if you're right on that cusp where you're not paying attention and not monetizing your alcohol, again, you could either be really good in combat or you're good in some conversations. But once the conversation turns, if you're too drunk or not drunk enough, like, it would just be a really cool mechanic to have to constantly adjust your character's drunkenness. And I had this idea of having this scale of like a number to track how drunk you are, and then a counter for how long it would take you to lose a drunk point. Like you were saying, because that's the whole idea is you don't just stop being drunk out of combat. So yeah, just it was such a cool idea because then you could have this, if someone could play it correctly, where it's a character who's constantly having to like, it would be cool to where, especially if you
I know so many functioning alcoholics, man. Like, I want to do this so bad.
And then it would be fun because then you could have a thing where it's like, hey, if you will get too sober, you start taking negatives. So you have a player who constantly has to regulate a level of drunkenness. Like, you could actually even impose that. Like, you can't be sober, but too many drinks and you start to lose stats. Like, you have to... It was just such a cool idea, but I failed because it got way too... my mind just... I broke out every scenario possible, and I tried to make it work, and then I'm just like, this is... I don't even want to keep up with this. I just wanted... You drink, and this gets better, but this gets worse. But it's also really hard to do that in terms of making it trackable, but also making it meaningful for the player. Like, you can't, because you got to know what drink are you on, how drunk you are, and how should you be acting. But you don't want to make it too many scenarios, otherwise you're literally having 15 trackers. It's just cool idea. I have to tweak with it more, but I like your drunken fighter concept with this, like the monk being able to utilize this. I think it would be kind of cool, and he does say it's just a follower. It doesn't say it's a cleric.
That's true.
So a monk can be a follower. So you could have your drunken monk with this. Let's see. Oh shit, I've missed quite a bit of text here. My bad. I was going off on this whole thing. Let's see. I agree. Monks also need love too. Could do it similar to Brewmaster Monk in WoW. They have a thing called Stagger where they don't take full damage from things. It's reduced based on agility, and you take damage over time, or is it supposed to be take a lot of damage for the damage that was reduced. Maybe something with a small amount of temp HP. Total not biased on the class I mained in WoW for a while. Hey, you did that too. Okay. Yeah, maybe make it brewer where they could brew certain ales and give you stats buffs. Oh, actually, I like that. So you did mention that, you could put stuff in it and it would always be cold. Being able to have maybe like some small idea of putting certain ingredients to make certain buff effects, that could be really cool. I love that idea.
Dude, your god could whisper you different recipes for different effects and stuff.
That would make this much more usable in my realm if it were more geared towards you can make certain buffs instead of just having these. Like, maybe proficiency bonus 3 gives you these, but then like maybe 5 instead of giving you like a bonus to heal, maybe every additional point gives you a different, like, you can like change the buff. That could be really cool. I also like the idea of the more drunk you get, the less damage you take. Because this is a thing where in D&D, it's like, I feel like one of the most underrated conversations or underrated arguments that no one really talks out loud about. And personally, I think it's because there's a lot of people who, I think if they get questioned too much about this, they get uncomfortable. So I don't think it's really a big talking point, because I think either people just don't care enough, or people are like not embarrassed, but like it's one of those like, oh, I don't know, I just do. But hit points. What are hit points? What do they mean, and when they should be used? That is a very big conversation that not a lot of DMs really talk about, is the finer points of HP. Because if you look, there's a lot of different resources and a lot of different ways that you can look at it. Some people, and I think the most common, is that HP is just life force. It is just your inevitable consciousness, death, whatever, and at any point it can be taken. But the reality is I forget what was the first resource, but there was one resource that came out that more went into depth about it and talked about how it's HP is more focused on the idea of a creature, human, whatever, fighter, like adventurer, but a creature locked in mortal combat. Like, to the death, I will win or I will die. And if you look at it through that prism, that makes it look a lot different, because like one of the situations that make the most sense is, like, you have peasants, you have NPCs. They're nothing. They're one hit point people. If your standard adventurer can slap for 1d2 damage or punch for 1d4 damage, are you telling me that an average adventurer at level 1 can literally go around and one hit kill 99% of the NPCs in your universe? It doesn't make sense. You don't just punch someone and they die, right? That's why that's why it doesn't make sense when you're in a dialogue and you want to just punch the NPC because they insulted you, or punch each other, in a heated debate for the act of roleplay. I don't necessarily think it always makes sense to roll to hit and to roll for damage, because that doesn't, you're not taking damage like that. That's not how damage technically works, because I ever since I kind of had that brought up to me, I've really thought about that, and HP does make a lot more sense when you're thinking about locked in internal battle. Like, when you are locked in battle, you are going to push yourself harder, you are going to withstand a lot more, and let's face it, the person's probably going to hit a lot harder. But punching you, just for insulting me is more of an impulsive kind of thing. It's going to hurt, but does pain constitute HP? Right? Like, that's a major question. And I think you see this a lot when you see players and DMs, like, you see this trope a lot in, like, memes and TikToks and Instagram reels, where they're like, people make fun of, like, being able to take minor points of damage for dumb things, or how it doesn't make sense that you can just sleep and all these mortal wounds, and I was stabbed in the heart an hour ago, but I just slept and I'm fine now. And they make fun of that idea that sleep cures wounds, but it's like, but that's the problem, is our conception of battle in D&D is that every time you hit, you draw blood and you do mortal wounds. But in real combat with armor, a successful hit is just something that knocks them off their guard, puts them in a vulnerable position, or bruises them. Armor, you can still get damage through armor. Like, you can still get hurt through armor, right? Like, you can still break a rib. And that's the other thing about, like, especially with, like, being in the SCA and everything, and actually watching, like, more recreated combat of, ancient combat. That's what happens. You can break bones, you can break ribs. Those, to me, are the things that are happening with HP, right? Like, you can spar. You've being with martial arts your whole life. The difference between sparring and being at an actual, like, fighting competition. Which one would you say actually takes HP from you? If you were to really conceptualize HP in-game, would you say that you're losing HP during a sparring match?
So...
And I mean, like, I'm not talking about sparring where you're actually trying to, like, do full pins, but if you're practicing with somebody and you do land a hit, like, that's not going to be the same as you are intentionally trying to knock them out, right?
I think the closest that I got to the way I view HP is I like to call it, as a DM, it's just suspense currency. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but truthfully, the majority of the time when my players are playing with me, like, the reason why it's there... Now, I understand what you're talking about, like, mechanics-wise, and I do have a response for that. But just in general, the majority of the time they're there is... you're right. I'm not gonna slap an NPC and they're gonna die. But also, when I'm up against, a bunch of like skeletons in a dungeon, it's nice to be able to like swing through three of them, right?
Exactly. And
You know,
minions are. I love minions. I love when you fight minions that are 1 HP, 10 AC, nothing. I can kick them and they will die. I'm not against that as a
For sure.
usage, but the idea that using what HP something has, whether it's 1 HP, but when to say that HP has been used up, right?
For me, HP is more akin to exhaustion.
Thank you. And that's where, yeah,
and
100%.
I'm the mentality behind exhaustion. So when you bring up the martial arts and like what that looks like, because I genuinely, what I think, what true martial artists do is they do exactly what you're talking about, and they lock themselves into that moment of true eternal combat. They put themselves into a fight or flight state. They manufacture it for themselves in that moment to test themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And so would I say they would be expending HP? Yes. Would I say that they are going to drop down and die because, of their mortal wounds? No. But could they potentially die from overexhaustion, from overexertion? Yes.
And this is where, and this is exactly why I've revamped the way I use HP in my realm, which is what we went over recently with my unconscious and dead zones revamp. Because I wanted to revamp it in terms of scalability for the player. As you get higher, it matters that scales with you. But because I have always treated it, whether I tell my players this or not, I have always treated HP kind of like what you said, more as an exhaustion. HP is not a physical thing. It is not the amount of blood you have. It's not the amount of life force you have. To me, HP is an accumulation of multiple things. I mean, it is the blood pumping through your body. It is the amount of pain that your character is feeling. It's the mental fatigue. It's the physical exhaustion, right? It's all of the things that accumulate to your ability to stand there, hold a weapon, and defend your life. So that's why, and the reason why I look at it is because that's why you can have two monks in a fist fight, and one is going to lose when they hit 0 HP, and you can have two sword masters, and one's going to lose when they hit 0 HP. But one's going to have a bunch of bruises, and one's going to have half their body cut up. So why is it the same, right? Like, how could it possibly be the same thing when that guy just has a bloody nose and that guy has missing an arm? But they're the same? And that's the problem, is like, it's easier to just assume HP is just HP, it just means you're dead. But that's why I've always preferred the idea of, at a certain point, there should be a level of unconsciousness where you're not officially dead. Because like you said, not everyone pushes themselves during fight or flight to death. And not every final blow will kill you. Now, I don't necessarily think that means that every final blow, unless stated, should default to a non-lethal blow. And I don't necessarily mean that unless stated, any NPC will get back up and live on. You can be that way if you want as a DM, but I'm just saying that in the sense of, I like non-lethal blows. I like it when people call that out and attempt to actually knock them out for prosperity's sake. But I also just make it based on like the fight itself and the details, right? If y'all are using slashing weapons and y'all are just laying into the dude, he's not going to get up when he hits 0 HP. Like, you've probably just bled him out. But again, if you're just knocking him clean a couple times and then he takes a 10-foot fall, lands on his head, he may not be dead. You know what I mean? Like, he won't be moving, he won't be breathing, but he may not be dead. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those topics where I think a lot of people just take it for granted. I think a lot of people just, both DMs and players, I think all just make an assumption of what HP means when the battle begins, because no one thinks about HP outside of battle. Unless it's right after a battle. Once you've rested and you're doing your normal walking through town and bullshit, no one's thinking about HP. HP only comes into play when the combat starts. And I think, for the most part, everyone, because of video games, because of just no one talks about it, and it's one of those things, when have you ever sat down in a gaming group to go over rules and they ever went through those rules, right? No one does. Because there are some rules that I think are just so well ingrained. Like D&D, unless you're very, very, very brand new, I don't think most players go over movement rules. Because it's just, like, unless your character's has a specific movement, everyone kind of understands 6 spaces, so many feet. Like, there's certain things that I think that we just take for granted because they're just assumed how they work. And I don't know how many times I've actually played with other players or other DMs who honestly thought differently than me about how HP works. But we never crossed it. We never discussed it, so we all just used it. And when you hit 0 HP, you're done playing. That's just it. I'm at 0 HP and I'm dead. And it's like, that's it. Like, you're dead. Like, did you bleed out? Did you get is your neck cut? Like, did you pass out? And that's where it's like that whole thing of, that's why I've always looked at it like from that point of view is I take HP. I don't necessarily make you lose HP if you're just being tired, but like HP to me is a reflection of your ability to be conscious on your feet and able to defend yourself, right? Able to literally make sure that you won't die.
With that, I don't know how much...
Hey, Cosmic! What up, buddy? You missed a lot.
Cosmic, what's up?
Cosmic, wow, you've missed so much. We went over everything.
That's all right.
Buddy.
You can watch it on YouTube.
You're gonna have to watch it on YouTube. Kage, we went through everything. Cool. We even had a whole topic waiting for you to show up before I went through your stuff. Good. But we did. Kage got to hear it all. I even remembered to talk about the caves and how the caves and the temple with the giant hammer and the body. Oh my god. He loves it. It's great.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely.
Definitely let me know if I messed up anything, if you do go back and watch it. But no, we went over all 3 items. He gave his critiques, and we did go over the setting that you're doing, which I am still just so mind blown over a cave system created by the decrepit body of an old god, and the organs are like gems to go mine. Just, God, it's so creative. And then like the hammer and the temple thing. It's so good. It's so good. My brain just like wants to be there. I want to see a painting of this. Seriously, I would love to see a painting of just like that like hand coming out of the ground holding this end of a temple. It's your icon being white that's barely noticeable when you go live. Yeah, I gotta figure out what that looks like. 'Cause again, I don't know what it looks like on your guys' side.
Oh yeah, I can show you.
So yeah, I'll have Kage show me what that looks like, and maybe before Thursday, I'll get that fixed. I'll try to get that fixed because I don't know why it doesn't show. Or why it doesn't look like I can be live. But we did go over it. So please, if you will, at least go check out my YouTube channel. Go check out that last episode or this episode, so you can go check him out and get his responses, because it was a lot of fun going back over your stuff and having like a rethink over it.
Before I forget, you were just talking about death and unconsciousness and things of that nature, and as someone who has a special place in your realm, as a first...
Oh, the first person to die in my realm?
Yes. Going over that experience. Now, I don't remember exactly how it went down or what the rules were. I know I fell, but like I'm talking about what was the unconscious state? Was it just HP? Was it what? Like,
so in
did
that
we go into all of those details in this situation?
Right. So in that particular case, it was yes. So in that particular case, I did take into account it wasn't just simple fall damage.
Right, I know. I was already injured.
Yeah, you were already injured. You were low level, and it was also not. It was low level, already damaged, fall damage. The way you fell, like the whole situation, and it was also technically a mistake on your part. It was a full action that you wanted to do that may not have been the smartest, but you were.
The reality is, I had a spell.
What had happened was,
and I forgot.
He forgot to use Featherfall and just decided I could probably maybe make this.
No, I would have not died if I had used Featherfall. Like,
Oh yeah, no, you were trying to climb something. And
I was climbing down.
Oh yeah,
I climbed up just fine.
And
I
climbed
went
down
to the other side, and I was on my way down, and then oh no, I'm making a strength check on the way down. Guess what? I rolled
slipped
low.
and fall.
Guess
and again,
what? I'm dead.
And that's why it wasn't just fall damage; it was the whole situation. You were already damaged, low level. You fell while climbing, so fell backwards, hit your head, landed on. Like it was a whole big deal. Plus, it was just again, it was the fact that you could have saved yourself but didn't. It was also a really good turning point in the campaign because it really helped like solidify a moment between you and your sister. It also helped solidify a little like thing I had on the side, which also kind of let you guys in on some more background story about the NPC that you had already encountered, the giant statue. So yeah, but the reason why is that one was truthfully, because it was non-combat related, the reason why that death happened was that is very much, I do like as in I don't do a lot of, but I like the fact that you can die naturally in D&D, at least in my realm.
No, of course.
I don't hold it to where you just die from spells or just die from combat. So the fact that you could be climbing and just all of the wrong things happened, and it wasn't like I just decided, oh, you fell, you died. There was multiple rolls that we made, and they all just went to the right path of your character would naturally have died in this situation. There's no way about it. But in that particular case, it wasn't just HP reach 0. It was you were already kind of exhausted. You were in a mortally, testing situation where you could die. And it was just those series of rolls that would make it to where that would have been a deathly fall for you. Now, was it insta-death? Like, it's not like that, again, it's not like that concept of, you were just dead. But it was that whole thing of, like, had nothing intervened like it did, you were pretty much unconscious and your body was not going to repair itself kind of thing. I think we even said, I don't know if I'm making this up in my head as a memory, but I think in that episode, I think because we were recording at that time, I think you broke your neck on that fall. I don't
remember.
Maybe that's just me like extrapolating more details now that we're talking about it, but I vaguely remember like making that comment, but yeah, good point. And that's the thing too. All of this is subject to change and has changed over the years because over 10 years I can't say that my rules have, always been the same.
No, exactly.
But
so it was a question just as to investigate, hey, what was it then? What is it now? That
I will say this. There are times where it also makes sense. Like, I wouldn't ever force a death, but there are more times where if the story makes more sense, I would lean towards that. So again,
for sure,
the whole situation that you were in, if you just fall normally, I may not have killed you, but I do know that, and you know me, I'm not just going to say this, but I know for a fact, if I don't remember everything, there were very good reasons why the death made more sense than just letting you fall.
For sure.
Because I wouldn't have just killed. I mean, we were way too early in for me to want to kill you that easily.
Very much so.
And besides, I'm not that cheap. I want you guys dead, but I don't want you dead that easily because that's just dumb. Like, I could poison your food.
That's not honor for anyone to die like that.
Let's see. So, is the video ready, or do I have to wait for you to post on YouTube? So right now, good question, Cosmic. Thank you. So actually, right now, because I'm so small of a streamer and I'm not affiliated yet, I'm allowed. Or at least I'm not under any contract that I can't multi-stream. So right now what I'm doing is I'm actually multi-streaming. So I'm simultaneously live streaming here on Twitch. That's just the chat that I'm interacting with. And that's where I'm doing all my stuff from. But I am actively live on YouTube right now as well. And then the reason why I do that, at least while I'm not affiliated, is it's actually easier on me because I don't have to record my own stuff. YouTube's doing all the recording. So I'm live here on Twitch. Twitch will hold this video for 7 days because, again, I'm not an affiliate, so they only hold for 7 days right now. But because I'm live on YouTube, YouTube is going to save this video indefinitely. So all of my live streams, because I started live streaming on YouTube first for that reason. Then I came over here once I learned I could dual stream.
Yeah.
So right now, all of my videos, they're live simultaneously, and as soon as I'm done streaming, that video is live on YouTube, ready to go. So you can go right now and start watching that YouTube. You can watch the video right now. It's live and it's already posted. So yes, answer your question. You can always go. MSG Live or at MisfitGamersStudios Live is my YouTube. Just pulled that up. Actually, you can say that here. New gaming groups. That is the one that we are talking about right now, and we are still live right now. So, yeah, you can go there. You can go check out my all of my old ones, all the way back from the very beginning before we got the nice new overlay. And yeah, if you comment there, I am keeping up with any comments. So if you have any questions, comments about anything we said on this stream or others, let us know in those comments, or you can always bring it to us live when we're here on Mondays and Thursdays. I did update my Twitch schedule, so on Twitch you can go see my schedule up there, and I'll try to make updates to that as I have anything new. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we're going to call it there. Pretty much went over everything. We were able to talk a little bit about our main topic, which was just what we've done and the experience we've had going to new gaming groups and how to deal with it. We went over Cosmic's 3 items that he made and got your reactions on those. And then we got to go over Brubel's item that he made. And then next time, hopefully on Thursday, Brubel, if you will join us again on Thursday, perhaps we can discuss your other creations, because I know you had some other things that we wanted to do.
And I have some of my players have created some spells of their own that I would like to.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just
run your way.
I'm loving it. Let's do it. I really like this. Yeah, if we can just keep doing this, like I love seeing what people have created.
Very much so.
Let's see, Cosmic. Which of the 3 items did he like best? So, which of his 3 items did you like the best? I think he had the biggest reaction. Okay, so you'll like the way I think that I did the trickery bag. What was the nickname of the bag of individual desires, the satchel of individual desires? I forgot what your nickname for it was. I think you'll like how I gave that one to him. That one I think he had the most reaction to, but I'm gonna say he probably liked the robe of accumulative knowledge the most. Bag of mockery or bag of mocking. Yeah, so it's Sid or bag of mocking. But yeah, I think I really think that you'll like the way I read that to him, because I read it out of order to kind of give him some build up, the way that you and I had talked about it.
So I'm not gonna lie. I like the cinematics and the story behind the robe.
Yeah.
A lot.
I loved that robe.
I think my favorite item, like, because of how it plays with mechanics and what you could do with it. And again, if I were to use it myself, I might make a couple of adjustments, but my favorite item of them was actually the little embedded crystal.
Really?
Crystal.
So that's interesting, because that was, I mean, out of the 3, that was my least favorite. So that's funny. I didn't actually realize that you liked that one the most.
I really enjoyed, especially because I think it would be cool if I know that the primary was, what was it, Fey summoning?
Yeah, Fey animal creatures was its main concept, and then the elemental at the end.
I think it would be cool if I could create different versions of this items that do completely different things, that summon completely different things. One that maybe summons different types of demons instead. Maybe a super corrupted one that's like, that's abyssal creatures, it gives me so much potential that I can do with it, and so much versatility that I could change it from summoning to something else. Like what it is as a magic item, I feel like has so many amazing possibilities and applications that I would want to play with it almost endlessly.
Right. And it's such a cool concept, because if I remember correctly, he said it was alchemists and artificers that create these. So yeah, the idea of infusing a gem inside of a gem to infuse that inside of a gem, and then have that multiple power growth. It's such a cool concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I didn't realize that was your favorite of all of them. But nice, very nice. Yeah, it has a lot of potential, and I love that idea that it just gets more and more powerful the more you use it, but you also get less uses the more you use it. Like you're running out. So there you have it. That's the one that he prefers the most. I still think the bag of mocking is my top favorite. It's just such a cool concept. It would be so much fun to play in a game with a DM who could properly run that. But also the robes, man. The robes had, I think, the best visual. I will say that. Just this robes of scrolls and tomes, and then just
I like
singed.
the idea, like when you said, like when you get the doubles,
The immunity,
it like glows that color.
Oh yeah, all the ink will run that color.
Yeah, but I also like the idea, like if on the days where you don't get the doubles, that it almost like translucently like fades between two colors, whatever the two immunities are, and like
the resistances.
Yeah, exactly. Just like light, not nearly as like like vibrant as it would if you had like both of them up. But still, like, I think it would be kind of cool.
Yeah. No, that just, that would be so cool. And I was actually telling him, Cosmic, like, a cool idea too is like, even if you didn't want to, if you wanted them to find it, how cool would it be like they like defeat like some evil wizard and they go into his back chambers, and like let's say they're like looking for an item or like looking for a special chest, and they see it in the back room like covered in all of these, just strewn about with papers, but they see the corner of the chest under these pile of papers, and so of course they're gonna be like, well, I move all the papers away, it just looks like random spells and scrolls and tomes, and then they just like shove it away, and then the giant pile of papers, instead of being tossed into the wind like they would expect it to as they clear it, it just lumps onto the floor all as one piece, and then like that's their clue, like what is this, and they realize it's like a robe. Like just so many ways with that description. Like I think that one has the best visual, but I think best gameplay had to be the Bag of Mocking, but the crystal has so much potential. That idea is so cool. And again, the setting, all of this, the setting that these all take place in is just still blows my mind. I want artistry of this. You know what I mean? Like I want artistry of this temple. I want artistry of like this cave system. Like it would just be so cool to have like an artist rendition of that. Did you talk to him about the Rabbit Folk character? Prelude, 12th level.
I swear I thought I heard about that last time I was in the chat with you.
Because I don't think I don't remember that.
Vaguely familiar.
I don't remember. I don't think we talked about that my last stream. So that one I am blanking on.
But I'll have to see if I can go back and
yeah. Well, we have the other streams, and plus we'll have to. If not, we'll have that on the next conversation. But yeah, we are past the 3-hour mark. I think this might be the longest live stream that we've done so far. So hey, good for us. We've been keeping it going. So I think we're gonna call it there. It's pretty late for us. We have work and everything tomorrow. Glassblower merchant background, mother of 15. Jesus. You mean this season she's a mother of 15. She's a rabbit. Anyway, we're going to call it there. This was fantastic. Cosmic, glad you could join us for the last bit of it. Go ahead and check out the video and let us know what you think. If you make any comments there, we'll go ahead and bring them up on the next stream. Let's see here. Brubel, thank you so much for joining and sharing with us today. We don't really have a lot of specified topics. Usually I try to come up with something a couple days before stream, but I am kind of liking this, just having a lot of chat interaction, going on D&D Beyond, looking at their homebrew. That's definitely going to be something that we're going to continue with just critiquing and giving our feedback, and then just also giving our experiences. And we are still looking into potentially getting the podcast that we were recording a couple years back, getting that up to date. and get posted. And I'm also hoping that we can start gaming here live as well.
And I'll see if I can figure out how to turn that whisper option off. So if you guys have any suggestions, you can just hit me up and send me a DM or something like that.
Yeah, I need to. What I want to do is over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna like create like a Discord and everything, and maybe even a side email just so for stuff like this when people want to share, I can have a medium to where they can give it to me. I can vet it real quick, and then I can post and I can get it up here. Because obviously, if I'm going to do this a lot, I want to be a little bit more ahead of the game and not just pull up random links like on stream. But eventually I'll get a better process. But yeah, so right now I am locked in Mondays and Thursdays. I start between 7 and 7:30. It kind of depends on the day if I can nail that 7 o'clock start time.
If I can be here as many Mondays as possible, I will be.
Yep, so Kage will be here on Mondays if he can. Otherwise, it'll just be me on Thursdays. And yeah, I don't have a topic selected for this Thursday, so we might go back to D&D Beyond, unless you two can provide me some other stuff, and then I'll just go ahead and critique y'all's homework. But otherwise, thank y'all for joining us. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your week. You have anything for anybody right now before we go?
Hey, man. It was a good time hanging out. Thank you. Keep bringing out the homebrew, man. I love it.
Yep, this is a lot of fun. I think this might be a constant. Let's see. At what point did you tell him idea? Like hour and I would say we made it about a half hour to 40 minutes. So between 30 and 40 minutes was the first topic, where we just talked about new gaming groups, and then somewhere around 35, 40 minutes, I brought up your stuff. So if you're clicking through the video, whenever you see me pull up this page, because it should have just been us two talking for like the first half hour, once you see me pull up the web page, that's when we started talking about your stuff. But yeah, it should have only been 30, 40 minutes or so. I think I made that comment.
Yeah.
But yeah, good luck finding that. Let me know what you think. And then yeah, have a great rest of y'all's week, and I'll see you on Thursday.
Deuces, friends.